Welcome to Cultivating World Recap, your ultimate destination for all things web novels, manga, and anime. Join us as we explore epic stories, unforgettable characters, and thrilling plot twists from your favorite series. If you're ready to dive into amazing narratives and discover hidden gems, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Let's embark on this adventure together. Now, let's begin our story. Chapter 91, Breakthrough to the Seventh Order. Huang Xiaolong saw Jiang Teng's reaction, and he couldn't help but shake his head in a helpless smile. Is he that horrible? Ignoring Jiang Teng, Huang Xiaolong came to his seat and sat down. Although Huang Xiaolong rarely attended class in the last term, no one dared to occupy his place, and it remained reserved. Xiaolong. Lai Lu was very happy seeing Huang Xiaolong, and two lovely dimples appeared on her face as she called out. Huang Xiaolong nodded in greeting. Lai Lu seemed to have lost some weight in these 2 months, but the cute dimples on her face remained the same. Even after a long time Huang Xiaolong had sat down, Jiang Teng was still too frightened to return to his own seat until Xingmei arrived. Noticing Huang Xiaolong in the classroom, Xingmei was a little surprised and a little awkward. During the class's lecture, she was absent-minded throughout and frequently stopped in mid-sentences, forgetting what she was saying numerous times. Huang Xiaolong left the classroom after one lesson and came to the library. Since he found out Asura's Gate headquarters was in Star Cloud Continent, he wanted to search more information about it. The day passed quickly while Huang Xiaolong spent the time in the library. When Huang Xiaolong came out, it was already midday. It had been slightly over a month since the new year, but the sunlight was stronger and it was warm as it fell on the skin. Returning to Tangshuan Mansion, he assumed the two little guys had gone out to play yet again since there was no shadow of the two around the mansion. Even the little violet monkey was not around. The little violet monkey would run to the Silvermoon Forest to kill demonic beasts and eat their beast cores for cultivation, showing up in the mansion from time to time. The three little guys were not in, but his parents were. Going into their courtyard, Huang Xiaolong passed an internal force cultivation technique to them and reminded them to practice diligently. His parents' cultivation achievements were limited by the strength of their martial spirits, and the chances of them breaking into Xiantian realm were slim. However, things are different with the support of internal force cultivation, as this largely increases their chances of entering the Xiantian realm. For example, Huang Xiaolong. When his body metamorphosis scripture reached the 10th stage, he could be considered a Xiantian expert in terms of internal force. Huang Xiaolong estimated an internal force Xiantian expert with this world's Xiantian expert possessed a similar level of strength. Huang Peng and Su Yan were ecstatic when they heard Huang Xiaolong say that practicing the internal force cultivation technique that he gave them would allow them to advance into the Xiantian realm. After passing the cultivation technique to his parents, Huang Xiaolong described in detail the situation that may arise while cultivating and the more difficult parts that were harder to comprehend. It was more than 2 hours later when Huang Xiaolong left his parents' courtyard to return to his own yard, where he continued with his own practice of Asura tactics and Wrath of the Nether King. Time flowed fast as another month had passed. Basically, in this 1 month's time, Huang Xiaolong did not step out the door of his courtyard, as every moment was spent either on Asura tactics, the body metamorphosis scripture, or Wrath of the Nether King. On this night, like usual, Huang Xiaolong was sitting on the cold jade bed practicing Asura tactics. The hazy moonlight shone into the room onto a black dragon and a blue dragon that were floating behind Huang Xiaolong, greedily devouring the netherworld spiritual energy rushing down from the space above. The battle Kai in Huang Xiaolong's body had started to roar and surge in his meridians, and the Linglong treasure pagoda was floating right above Huang Xiaolong's head. Again and again, as Huang Xiaolong continued to run Asura tactics, the battle Kai coursed through his meridians faster and faster, rolling continuously and crashing against the ever-thinning 7th order barrier. Huang Xiaolong didn't know how long this went on when his body suddenly shuddered. A tiny crack sounded that only Huang Xiaolong could hear. The 7th order barrier was finally broken. The netherworld battle Kai rushed joyfully forward into the 7th order meridian's route, and in Huang Xiaolong's heart position, a Kai Sea was formed. The netherworld battle Kai rushed endlessly into the 7th order meridians and gathered in the newly formed Kai Sea in Huang Xiaolong's heart. By breaking through to the 7th order and forming the Kai Sea, there was an abundant amount of battle Kai within the body. If the battle Kai in the meridians were like a small river, now, battle Kai in the Kai Sea was like a vast ocean. The moment the barrier was broken, the black dragon and the blue dragon behind Huang Xiaolong evolved in a heartbeat. The twin dragons' bodies grew bigger, the black and blue scales became denser, and the most amazing thing was another claw grew out from the initial 4, and they both turned into 5 clawed dragons. 2 dragon heads roared towards the heavens, as the dragon's terrifying oppressive aura swept out from the room. Huang Xiaolong's body was shrouded in the flickering glow for a long time, like a light barrier around him. Huang Xiaolong was thrilled. Finally he broke through the 7th order. Haoshan 7th order. Many were stuck at either one of the two dividing lines. One was the fourth order, and the other was the seventh order. The majority of the people cultivated for decades to break through to the seventh order, and some had remained stuck forever below the seventh order. In the kingdom's small towns, a seventh order like Wang Xiaolong could be considered as the king. But at this moment in time, Wang Xiaolong had yet to reach 11 years old. According to what he knew, the person who built Duanran Empire, the Duanran Emperor, had advanced to the seventh order at age 13. Suppressing his happiness, he continued to run Asura's tactics, refining the netherworld's spiritual energy in his body. After the black and blue dragons evolved, their speed of absorbing the netherworld's spiritual energy had become 3 times faster compared to when he was at peak late sixth order. At first, when Wang Xiaolong advanced, his Kc was an empty ocean during the drought season. As he pushed forward, refining the netherworld's spiritual energy, his battle Kai reserve in the Kai Sea gradually increased. At the same time, the netherworld battle Kai was refining his muscles, flesh, tendons, and skin. Before the seventh order, the battle Kai wasn't able to strengthen the outer layer of the body. This was something possible after someone had broken through to the seventh order. When the morning sunlight graced the great earth, Wang Xiaolong ended his practice and got up from the cold jade bed. He let out a loud shout towards the sky to express the joy in his heart for advancing to the seventh order. After one night of practice and battle K tempering, Wang Xiaolong could feel the difference on his skin. This was something new. Not only that, all his muscles and even his flesh was firmer while his tendons became stronger. It is said a 10th order warrior's outer layer was stronger than a cow leather, muscles harder than steel stone, tendons having the explosive power of a spring, extremely fierce sounding. Already a 7th order, I wonder what I look like after a soul transformation. Wang Xiaolong thought and walked out from his room to the yard. Calling out both the black and blue dragons, Wang Xiaolong initiated the soul transformation process. Instantly, black and blue lights broke out and disappeared in less than a second, wrapping themselves over Wang Xiaolong's body, beginning the fusion. It began with his arms. A fine layer of dragon scales covered over Wang Xiaolong's skin. On the left hand, there were black, colored dragon scales, and on his right hand were glittering blue dragon scales, spreading to his whole body apart from the face area. Wang Xiaolong didn't feel the slightest discomfort, even when his whole body was covered in a layer of dragon scales, as if they had always been one entity, and he could obviously feel his outer defense had reached a new threshold. Very strong. This was the first word that jumped into Wang Xiaolong's mind during his first soul transformation with his twin martial spirits, and Wang Xiaolong liked this feeling very much. After the soul transformation, the 2 dragons' heads looked like they were tattooed on his back, exuding a majestic aura. At the same time, there were changes to Wang Xiaolong's pupils. His left eye was entirely black and his right pupil was blue. Wang Xiaolong's fist suddenly struck out, and whistling wind sounded as it cut across space swiftly, and the result was a shattered false mountain dozen meters away, leaving a pile of broken pieces of small rocks and gravel. Chapter 92. Opening the first layer of Linglong Treasure Pagoda. A brief moment later, Wang Xiaolong cancelled the soul transformation. Both the blue and black dragon scales on his arms as well as the 2 tattooed, like dragon heads on his back disappeared. Exhaustion hit him all of a sudden. Although soul transformation increases his power and strength by many folds, it also consumed a large amount of battle Kai. Moreover, Wang Xiaolong had just advanced to the 7th order. After Wang Xiaolong returned to his normal self, tiny blue dots of lights shimmered around his body, and as they shone, the exhaustion Wang Xiaolong felt due to the soul transformation vanished instantly. His battle Kai along his meridians recovered in a short few seconds. This was Wang Xiaolong martial spirit's 3rd ability after breaking through to the 7th order. Instant recovery. Instant recovery. Roughly a few breaths' time, Wang Xiaolong had fully recovered the depleted battle Kai. Although it needed 10 seconds time to fully recover his battle Kai, it was already a heaven-defying level ability. From a certain aspect, this instant recovery was stronger than space concealment and phantom shadow. Combining instant recovery with space concealment, Wang Xiaolong needn't worry about the side effect of depleted battle Kai. Well, the only misfortune for this ability was it can only recover battle Kai and not heal injuries. 10 seconds later, Wang Xiaolong's battle Kai had fully recovered. He vanished right on the spot, and vanishing along with him was the chair next to him. 10 breaths time later, Wang Xiaolong reappeared from the space. Coming out from the space concealment, Wang Xiaolong continued to test the ability, appearing and disappearing meters away, and in the blink of an eye, he was more than 10 meters from the original spot. After the second transformation, other than awakening a 3rd ability, the previous 2 abilities were more powerful. Before entering the concealment space, he could only go in alone, whereas now, he could bring another person. And with phantom shadow ability, he actually could shift his position with his will within a 10 meters range, teleportation. His speed was twice as fast, the one Lu Kai possessed with his Sky-Peng martial spirit. Huang Xiaolong inhaled deeply while his heart was rejoicing. He didn't expect he would have a new ability after his martial spirits evolved a second time, and the first two had such an improvement. Then, Huang Xiaolong called out the Linglong Treasure Pagoda. According to what Yu Ming had said, he could open the first layer once he broke through to the 7th order. Huang Xiaolong initiated the Netherworld Battle Kai on both palms, and as per Yu Ming's instruction, sent his Battle Kai into the pagoda. When the Netherworld Battle Key entered the Linglong Treasure Pagoda, it shone brightly and absorbed Huang Xiaolong's Battle Kai. He was somewhat taken aback by the reaction, and without warning, Huang Xiaolong's eyes blurred as he appeared in a different space. This space was not big, merely several hundred square meters with a height of 10 meters. In the 4 directions were walls that were made of unknown material. This is the first floor space inside the Linglong Treasure Pagoda? Huang Xiaolong surveyed around wide-eyed. This situation was not consistent with Yu Ming's description. This Linglong Treasure Pagoda's space actually allows the owner to enter inside? Doesn't this mean? Getting over his shock, he was more than thrilled because he noticed the spiritual aura within the Linglong Treasure Pagoda was thicker and much purer than the outside. Furthermore, up above the space, scuds of fire dragon Kai flowed upwards, forming groups of thick fire dragon Kai clouds. If he cultivated inside the space absorbing the fire dragon Kai clouds, it would be far more effective than cultivating in the Dragon Flame Valley. Floating above these clouds were thumb-sized red beads, and they were shiny as they reflected the light like the twinkling stars in the night sky. However, the stars were white, and these beads glittered a fiery red. Fire Dragon Pearl. A thought flashed across Huang Xiaolong's brain. This must be the Fire Dragon Pearl that Yu Ming said. 1, 2, 3. Huang Xiaolong slowly counted one by one and came up to 108. His eyes lit up. 108 Fire Dragon Pearl. This number was greatly out of his expectation. This amount of Fire Dragon Pearls was enough for himself to cultivate with for some time and even distribute some to his parents and little siblings. Suddenly at this point, a coruscating fire red glow fell on Huang Xiaolong and shrouded over him before he could react. Subsequently, in Huang Xiaolong's mind, a physique cultivation technique appeared with information about the Golden Linglong body. The Golden Linglong body has a total of 9 layers, and every layer brings about a mythical effect, and when one reached the 9th layer to achieve the Linglong Treasure body, the person's body would be as resilient as the Linglong Treasure Pagoda, nearing invincible. Huang Xiaolong repeated the mantra once in his mind, and seconds later, he sat down cross-legged and started practicing. In the blink of an eye, a layer of fiery, red golden light similar to the Linglong Treasure Pagoda burst out from Huang Xiaolong's body. A few hours later, Huang Xiaolong finally stopped. During these few hours of practice, Huang Xiaolong observed that there was a mystical force, strengthening his muscles, bones, tendons, and the surface of his skin, improving his overall defense. After stopping his practice, Huang Xiaolong turned his attention to the glittering red pearls hanging above the thick red clouds. With a thought, his right hand teleported one of the Fire Dragon Pearls. On his palm, the Fire Dragon Pearl felt a little hot, like a fire pearl burning at 50 to 60 Celsius. Huang Xiaolong opened his mouth and threw the fire red pearl into his mouth. The moment the Fire Dragon Pearl reached his stomach, it turned into a hot stream of energy that rushed into every corner of his body. Sensing this, Huang Xiaolong quickly calmed down again and ran Asura tactics to refine the stream of hot energy. The Netherworld Battle Kai and his meridians became active, surging and crashing the entire time while the dark gray color started to change slowly to a light gray. The same thing process emerged again, just like the time he was cultivating in the Dragon Flame Valley. Black impurities mixed with blood formed a layer over his skin, and these impurities were hidden deep down inside of his body instead of the normal ones. Another few hours passed. A layer of hardened blood and waste covered Huang Xiaolong. One day passed and the layer of impurities fell off as a new layer of waste was dispelled again, and the process repeated itself once more. After 5 days it stopped. Huang Xiaolong took 1 day's time to fully refine one Fire Dragon Pearl, and each time he finished one, he would take another pearl down from the clouds as he continued to swallow and cultivate. In 10 days' time, he had refined 10 Fire Dragon Pearls. He stopped when he finished the 10th pearl and stood up, feeling immensely relaxed and comfortable from head to toe, akin to throwing away 100 jin burden. 10 days of practice resulted in Huang Xiaolong's strength improving again, nearing peak early 7th order. According to Huang Xiaolong's estimation, if he continued to stay in practice in the Linglong Treasure Pagoda space while swallowing the Fire Dragon Pearls, in another 2 weeks' time, he could reach peak early 7th order, and given 2 months' time, mid-7th order. However, with this cultivation speed, even if he monopolizes all 108 Fire Dragon Pearls, it could only last him 3 to 4 months. That, and the speed at which the Linglong Treasure Pagoda condensed one pearl, even 10 days was not sufficient to complete one. Thus Wang Xiaolong must think of a method that will speed up the process. Hey, everyone. I just wanted to take a moment to thank each and every one of you for your amazing support. Whether you've been here from the beginning or just joined, your likes, comments, and shares mean the world to me. I wouldn't be able to do this without you, and I'm beyond grateful for the love and encouragement. This channel is as much yours as it is mine, and I can't wait to keep creating content for this awesome community. Here's to more exciting videos and milestones ahead. Thank you so much. Chapter 93. Class Advancement Test. Wang Xiaolong stared up at the litter of fire dragon pearls, and a thought suddenly flashed across his mind. He took out a psych at fruit from the Asura ring. Without warning, a suction force came from the pagoda, and streams of spiritual energy drilled out from the psychic fruit. Before Wang Xiaolong's eyes, the psychic fruit dried up, wrinkled and deflated in front of his eyes, before finally vanishing into thin air. And above him, after the spiritual energy from the psychic fruit was absorbed, fire dragon Kai swirled rapidly, showing signs of condensing a new fire dragon pearl. Watching this phenomenon, Wang Xiaolong's heart was delighted. Sure enough, this method works. Following that, Wang Xiaolong took out another psychic fruit. Just like what happened previously, the psychic fruit was sucked empty of the spiritual energy within it and vanished, swallowed by the pagoda. Wang Xiaolong continued to take out one psychic fruit after another, and after the number had surpassed 10, a new fire dragon pearl was successfully formed, hanging above the clouds. Staring at the newly condensed fire dragon pearl, Wang Xiaolong felt like crying. Now he knew that psychic fruits and possibly other elixirs could speed up the time of condensing a fire dragon pearl, but the expense is too big. More than 10 psychic fruits. Wang Xiaolong only had less than 20 psychic fruits left in his spatial Asura ring. Although these types of herb and fruit elixirs can be bought from auction and trading houses, the prices were somewhat scary. Not to mention Wang Xiaolong, probably not even the kingdom's ruler, King Luji, could afford it on a long-term basis. Next, Wang Xiaolong took out over 100 battle kaidan, and after absorbing all of them, the pagoda finally condensed out one fire dragon pearl. More than 100 battle kaidan was equivalent to one fire dragon pearl. This amount was more or less the same of the 10 psychic fruits. I wonder if a demonic beast core has an effect. Suddenly, Wang Xiaolong thought of a possibility and wondered to himself. However, there was no beast core in his ring. A short while later, Wang Xiaolong came out from the Linglong treasure pagoda space and headed to the main hall. Calling Fei Hu, he gave Fei Hu 100,000 gold coins, tasking him to purchase beast cores from auction and trading houses. Even though Fei Hu was puzzled with Wang Xiaolong's request of buying so many beast cores, he dared not ask too many questions. Roughly 1 hour later, Fei Hu returned to the mansion, and as per Wang Xiaolong's order, he procured more than 40 pieces of stage 7 beast cores. Wang Xiaolong was looking forward to testing out his theory. After he got the items from Fei Hu, Wang Xiaolong hurried back to his room and entered the Linglong treasure pagoda space, taking out all the stage 7 beast cores. Just like what Wang Xiaolong guessed earlier, the pagoda could also absorb the violent demonic energy inside beast cores, and very soon, the pagoda space had sucked out all the energy from the 40+ beast cores that Fei Hu brought back. These beast cores turned into dull gray ash and disappeared, and the space that had absorbed more than 40 demonic beast cores energy and condensed out 2 new fire dragon pearls. Seeing this result, Wang Xiaolong breathed out and relieved. This result was still acceptable to him, less than 50 beast cores in exchange for 2 fire dragon pearls, meaning 50,000 gold coins for 1 fire dragon pearl. This was way more cost-effective than using psychic fruits or spirit dans. Still, 50,000 gold coins was no small sum, and he decided to enter the Silver Moon Forest himself to hunt for stage 7 demonic beasts. And this time, the duration spent inside the Silver Moon Forest would be longer than the last time. Wang Xiaolong decided before he headed towards the Silver Moon Forest to kill demonic beasts, he would make a trip to the academy first. He wanted to request for a class advancement test into the second-year class since he had a break through to 7th order. Early next morning, Wang Xiaolong came to the Cosmic Star Academy and went directly to the principal's room. Actually, the matter regarding class advancements usually belonged to the class teachers, but by the time it was approved, 6 months would have gone by. If he went through Sunjiang or Xinku directly, it would save him a lot of time and trouble. When Wang Xiaolong arrived at the principal's room, coincidentally, both Sunjiang and Xinchu were inside. Both were a little surprised seeing Wang Xiaolong, and then both stood up with smiling faces. "Xiaolong, how come you have the free time to come over and look for us 2 old fellows?" Sun Jiang grinned and asked, "Did you come across some problems in your practice?" Xinchu was also smiling. "Whatever problems you have, be at ease and tell us." The 2 of them thought Wang Xiaolong's abrupt visit was due him coming across cultivation problems. Thus he came over to ask them for guidance. Wang Xiaolong shook his head, clarifying, "I came because I wanted to request for the class advancement test." "Request for the second-year class advancement test?" Both old fellows blinked for a moment. Sun Jiang and Xing Chu exchanged a glance, resulting in 4 widened eyes staring back at each other in shock. You're saying you have broken through to the 7th Order? Sun Jiang blurted out. Not half a year had passed since the academy competition ended. Even if Huang Xiaolong had taken the Xingyo Dan and KC Dan, it was impossible for him to advance in such a short time. According to their secret estimate, Huang Xiaolong needs at least 1 year to do so. Xing Chu also has an inconceivable expression on his face as he stared at Huang Xiaolong. Huang Xiaolong nodded, reaffirming what he had just said. That is correct. And he released his battle kai energy outward. 7th Order? It really is the 7th Order. When Huang Xiaolong released his battle kai outside his body, Sun Jiang and Xing Chu who found it hard to believe initially, and they broke out in excitement. It was quite some time later before the 2 old fellows recovered their dignified image. Still, both of them scrutinized Huang Xiaolong with weird looks on their faces. They didn't expect in less than 4 months, just slightly over 3, that Huang Xiaolong gave them another wonderful surprise. If this was Huang Xiaolong's cultivation speed, he probably could win the Academy's overall champion before 10 years' time, and represent Cosmic Star Academy in the Duanran Empire's Battle of the Imperial City. Then my request on the class advance test. Seeing that Sun Jiang and Xing Chu just stood there and stared at him without an answer, Huang Xiaolong's brows creased and prodded them. Hearing Huang Xiaolong speak, Sun Jiang and Xing Chu realized their gaffe, coming to their senses. Xiaolong, I didn't expect you would break through 7th Order so soon. Sun Jiang was smiling as if spring had arrived as he looked at Huang Xiaolong. Your request for class advancement test, we approve. Let's do it this way. Tomorrow, the 2nd year Class 6 is going near the border to kill some bandits. You follow along with the 2nd year Class 6. As long as you can kill 10 bandits, you pass the test. Prince Lu Kai also requested for the class advancement test 2 days ago. At this time, Xing Chu informed Huang Xiaolong, tomorrow, like you, he would be joining the 2nd year Class 6 to kill bandits at the kingdom's border. Lu Kai is also going. Huang Xiaolong was taken aback by the news, but he just nodded and bid farewell to the 2 old fellows. After Huang Xiaolong had left Sun Jiang's room, they sent Huang Xiaolong out personally. Watching Huang Xiaolong's back as he walked away until he vanished from view did the 2 look away. Now, I'll eagerly anticipate what the little guy will achieve in 10 years. Sun Jiang exclaimed. Xing Chu agreed. Perhaps 100 years later, our Cosmic Star Academy needs this little guy's care. Sun Jiang nodded his head, thinking about this matter pensively. Huang Xiaolong headed straight back to Tangshuan Mansion, not bothering to attend class after he left the principal's room. Entering the Linglong Treasure Pagoda space, he continued to practice using the Fire Dragon Pearls. 1 day passed. On the 2nd morning, Huang Xiaolong once again came to the academy and waited at the square. He noted the 2nd year Class 6 students were already gathered, and Huang Xiaolong could recognize one of them, the student who won the Class 6 battle, Yang. Yang was one of the people who entered the Dragon Flame Valley. Chapter 94. Strange Little Town. As Huang Xiaolong walks towards the group, all the students turned their heads, looking over to his direction with complex emotions evident in their eyes. After all, Huang Xiaolong had advanced to the 7th Order and requested for a class advancement test. Yesterday, not long after Huang Xiaolong returned to Tangshuan Mansion, the news had spread throughout the Cosmic Star Academy. Once again, Huang Xiaolong had become the center of attention in Cosmic Star Academy. Yang walked out from the group of students towards Huang Xiaolong, and laughed when he came before Huang Xiaolong. Xiaolong, I didn't expect since we last meet, not even 3 months had passed, and you have already broken through to the 7th Order. I was lucky. Huang Xiaolong said. Lucky? Yang shook his head. If being lucky could allow one to advance into the 7th Order, then the majority of people in the martial spirit world would not be stuck in the 4th Order, 5th Order, or the 6th Order for their entire lives. Breaking through to the 7th Order required more than luck. At this time, from some distance away, Lu Kai arrived accompanied by a team of palace guards. Arriving at the square, Lu Kai did not feel it was strange seeing Huang Xiaolong's presence. Apparently, he too had heard about Huang Xiaolong's break through in his request for the assessment. Looking at Huang Xiaolong, Lu Kai felt complicated. Once both of them passed this class advancement test, they would be promoted to the 2nd year's Class 6, becoming classmates. Let's compete again in this assessment, what do you think? Lu Kai looked at Huang Xiaolong and baited a bet of 300,000 gold coins. 300,000? Very well. What are we competing in? Somebody wanted to gift him 300,000 gold coins, so of course Huang Xiaolong would not refuse. Since the assessment this time is to kill bandits, then we shall compete and see who kills the most bandits. Lu Kai said in a sullen voice. He lost to Huang Xiaolong during the academy competition. However, killing bandits does not solely rely on strength, and Lu Kai does not think he would lose to Huang Xiaolong in killing more bandits. Huang Xiaolong nodded, indicating he agreed with Lu Kai's proposal. Shortly after that, all students were gathered, and the second-year Class 6's teacher was also a beautiful female teacher called Chen Ferong. Chen Ferong was a different type compared to Xingmeiki. While the latter was cold with an arrogant bearing, Chen Ferong was like a fresh, gentle white lily. Her every move was soft and gentle, and a smile graced her face as she spoke, giving a calm feeling. This time, the task of killing bandits near the border is led by her. Chen Ferong smiled at Wang Xiaolong and Lu Kai when she came to the square. Both Wang Xiaolong and Lu Kai were celebrities of the academy, and of course she could recognize them both. Yesterday, Principal Sun Jiang and Shen Chu called her over to the principal's room, and with a deadpan, somber face they emphasized that no matter what, she must ensure the safety of Wang Xiaolong and Lu Kai during this trip, and due to this very reason, other than her leading the team, there were 2 other 10th order teachers accompanying them. Since everyone is here, let's depart, Chen Ferong ordered. A little over 1 hour later, the group had left the royal city area, heading in the direction of one of the borders area. Half a month had passed. Everyone be alert. The small towns in this area are frequent places the bandits appear. Although these bandits' strength is not very high, they always come out in large numbers, amassing close to 100 people at a time, and they are extremely cruel. When you come across them, all of you must not display any mercy. Standing before the desolate entrance of a small town, Chen Ferong reminded the students of this warning. After traveling for 2 weeks, they finally reached the destination point, the junction between the Luotong Kingdom and the Beilong Kingdom. According to Chen Ferong, these bandits came from the Beilong Kingdom, sneaking past to the Luotong Kingdom's army patrol to the Luotong Kingdom's border towns, killing, robbing, and kidnapping people. Once these bandits had robbed a place, they would quickly retreat back into the Beilong Kingdom's territory, causing a huge headache for the border soldiers. After Chen Ferong warned the students, she led them into the desolate-looking little town. In the quiet little town, the streets were empty with not even the shadow of a person. The doors of every store and house were shut tightly as the silence became eerie in the students' minds. Occasionally, black smoke could be seen rising from some random buildings. A while later, Chen Ferong split the students into 3 teams led by her and the other 2 teachers. Each group has roughly 20-something students. Each team will act separately and regroup at the town entrance. Whichever group that found the bandits were to release the signal to inform the others of their position. Both Lu Kai and Wang Xiaolong were arranged into the same team led by Chen Ferong. The students followed Chen Ferong from behind as they continued onward along the streets. 1 hour later, they still had yet to see any bandits. The whole town was blanketed in an atmosphere of desolation, hopelessness, and something else, something strange. Strange, where did the people in this small town go? Why can't we find even one person? Yan, who was on the same team as Wang Xiaolong, frowned and asked out loud, could everyone have died? If that is the case, where are the bodies? Lu Kai interjected. Not only there were people, there weren't any corpses either. There were no traces of fighting or blood splatters, as if all the people in the small town had vanished into thin air. Wang Xiaolong's brows creased into a furrow. However, the group continued onward, and when the team came to the north side of the small town, suddenly Wang Xiaolong stopped. This is the smell of blood. Yes, this is the smell of blood. The smell of blood was extremely light, but Wang Xiaolong could clearly smell it, and he was not wrong in his judgment. Ever since he broke through to the 7th order and his martial spirits evolved for the 2nd time, his hearing ability and sense of smell has improved exponentially. Lu Kai and Yang noticed Wang Xiaolong's sudden reaction and were doubtful in their hearts. And at this point, without warning, Wang Xiaolong's silhouette dashed forward, shocking the rest of the team. Wang Xiaolong! Chen Ferong cried out. She, Lu Kai, and everyone else also sped up. Not long after Wang Xiaolong's abrupt sprint, up ahead on the same street, he saw 2 middle-aged men in peculiar clothing. The 2 middle-aged men looked up when they saw Wang Xiaolong as well as Chen Ferong, and 20 over people at the back, and they panicked. Turning around, they wanted to run. Prior to this, Chen Ferong had described the characteristics of the bandits' clothing to them. From the way these 2 middle-aged men were dressed and their hasty retreat, there was no doubt they are part of the Beilong Kingdom's bandits that came across the border. Want to escape? Watching their actions, Wang Xiaolong let out a cold smirk. In an instant, his martial spirit's phantom shadow ability was initiated, and in a flash, he had crossed the 10-meter distance between him and the 2 men. Close to him, Wang Xiaolong swung his blades, and a cold, sharp light slid across one of the men's throat. Wang Xiaolong also punched the other man, sending him flying, but keeping him alive. Wang Xiaolong came to the spot where the man landed, and his voice was filled with iciness as he questioned him. Talk. Where are the townspeople? That middle-aged man was terribly frightened, and he cried out, Don't kill me. I'll talk. The townspeople were herded to the square up ahead, pointed to a direction in front. However, just as he finished speaking, Wang Xiaolong pointed a finger at his forehead, and it pierced through the temple. Huang Xiaolong's silhouette flashed again in the direction the man had pointed. And at this point, Chen Feirong and the students arrived, and seeing the two lifeless bodies, she ordered to Yang, "Quick, release the signal to notify the other two teams." "Yes, teacher." Yang answered, quickly taking out a smoke ball and crushing it towards the sky. In less than a second, a blue-colored light shot up the sky. Moments later, Huang Xiaolong had rushed to the aforementioned square and came before an open space that could accommodate a few thousand people, and bodies were strewn everywhere. Some of these bodies had all four limbs cut off, some were headless, and some had their intestines dug out. These bodies were what used to be the townspeople. The smell of blood curdled in the air, and on the square, some hundreds of bandits were gripping sharp blades in the midst of their massacre of the townspeople. Mournful wails resounded in the square. This group of bandits actually numbered close to 300. Chapter 95. The Marshal Ning Family. Huang Xiaolong rushed to the square, and saw this bloody scene. A strong fury erupted in his heart, and both of his fists clenched tightly as a sharp killing intent broke out from his eyes. Subsequently, Chen Feirong, Lu Kai, Yi Yang, and the rest of the students arrived at the square, and all of them were equally furious at the picture before them. When the big group arrived, the bandits on the other side that were immersed in the joy of slaughter suddenly stopped and turned around and looked at the new guests. Cosmic Star Academy? A middle-aged bandit that wore an elongated black hat covering half his face walked out from the group. His eyes swept over the other side, and when his gaze fell on Chen Feirong's curvaceous body, the middle-aged bandit chuckled lecherously. "I just said there isn't one decent woman in this little town, yet I didn't expect they would send one here now. Brothers, after this we can enjoy ourselves. After I am done, then it is your turn." "Thanks, head." In an instant, excited cheers broke out from the 300 over bandits. Chen Feirong's delicate face was angered, turning green and red, and her beautiful eyes glowered at the other side. Seeing this, the bandit head middle-aged man wearing the elongated black hat smiled even wider. "Little slut, in a moment us brothers will surely pleasure you. Don't look so anxious." Finished saying that, two hands waved, and the 300 over bandits spread out and surrounded the small 20 people in the middle. Huang Xiaolong's cold gaze swept over the surrounding bandits. At this time, the bandit head's cold voice rang out, "Leave the women alive. Kill all the men." As the other side instructed, Huang Xiaolong's silhouette moved at the same instant while gripping the blades of Asura in his hands. Screams sounded from the opposite side with a swing of his blades, and Lu Kai, Yi Yang, as well as the others also started to attack. Chen Feirong killed several bandits that rushed over with a hand print. She leaped up and her palm aimed to strike the bandit head. Watching Chen Feirong coming at him, the bandit head snickered. One of his hands signaled his cronies, "Capture the little slut. Remember, don't hurt her. Otherwise, I won't be able to play to my heart's content later." The bandit cronies acknowledged him in loud voices and swarmed towards Chen Feirong. Although Chen Feirong was a 9th Order warrior, a late 9th Order at that, the number of bandits besieging her was too many despite having no 9th Order warrior amongst them. Most of them were of the 7th Order and a few were 8th Order warriors. These 8th Order bandits attacked Chen Feirong together, making her flustered in confusion. Chen Feirong had an ugly expression on her delicate face as she had not expected to run into such a big group of bandits that had such strength. In previous incidents, these kind of bandits that crossed the border from the Bailong Kingdom consisted of no more than 100 men and at most, maybe 1 or 2 8th Order. Sometimes, even 7th Order bandits were rare and the average strength were just 6th Orders. Her silhouette dodged swiftly like a floating cloud, avoiding the dozen 8th Order bandits' attacks. Taking a quick glance around, she saw Lu Kai and Yi Yang. In fact, all the students were sieged by a large number of bandits, and each of them was in an extremely dangerous situation. But when her eyes found Huang Xiaolong, she was stunned as she saw Huang Xiaolong's shadow flickering randomly amongst the bandits, whilst swinging a pair of cold-looking blades. With every swing, there surely would have been 2 bandits screaming and falling to the ground, and every attack targeted a vital point, taking lives without needing a second attack. There was no exception, even if the opponent was a mid or late 7th Order bandit. Huang Xiaolong's speed had reached a degree that dumbfounded people. Chen Feirong looked wide-eyed at Huang Xiaolong with unspeakable shock in her heart. She could tell Huang Xiaolong's speed far surpassed the average peak late 7th Order. However, this was not the time for shock, and she did not have the luxury of time to ponder why Huang Xiaolong had such an amazing speed. She shouted, "Everyone release your martial spirits. Spare no effort and hold on for another 5 minutes. Hold on 5 minutes and the other 2 teams will arrive. 5 minutes and they would be safe." Chen Feirong's order reverberated, and the students, including Lu Kai and Yi Yang, called out their martial spirits and soul transformed without delay. However, the surrounding bandits followed their actions, calling out their martial spirits and soul transformed. The bandit head sneered as he stood at one side watching the scene, and then, his sight focused on Huang Xiaolong. He had noticed the situation around Huang Xiaolong, watching bandits fall one by one under Huang Xiaolong's blades, and a sharp cruel light shone in his eyes. Suddenly, the bandit head leaped out, aiming a palm print at Huang Xiaolong's back. Destruction Kai Palm. Little bastard, go die for me. A big palm print whistled across space. In the middle of the palm print was a concentration of violent destructive Kai like the eye of a hurricane. Huang Xiaolong, watch out. Noticing this, Lu Kai, Yang, and some of the students shouted in warning. Chen Feirong's expression worsened seeing this. He was well aware of Huang Xiaolong's importance. It could be said, in this task to kill bandits, mishaps are allowed to happen to all of them, except for Huang Xiaolong. Roll away. Chen Feirong was blocked by 10 or so 8th Order bandits, and seeing that violent palm print that was about to hit Huang Xiaolong, she roared with fury. A white coruscating light flashed, and at the same time something like pillows of cloud appeared, but its color was an icy transparent blue. When the pillow of clouds emerged, the surrounding temperature dropped to freezing, akin to an Arctic winter. This is Chen Feirong's martial spirit, Ice Cloud. It falls into the same category as Fei Hu's martial spirit, one that derives from nature. Calling out her martial spirit, Chen Feirong's palm struck the void in 4 directions. Ice, sealed world. Where the palm hit, the airflow actually froze and condensed into numerous icicles. The dozen 8th Order bandits that were ganging up on her immediately retreated in haste. Even though Chen Feirong successfully forced these bandits to retreat, there wasn't enough time for her to rescue Huang Xiaolong. Watching as the bandit head's palm print was about to hit Huang Xiaolong's back, Lu Kai, Chen Feirong, and the other students' heart tightened, but Huang Xiaolong suddenly vanished. The attack fell on empty air, flipping the little town residents' corpses off the square ground. The smile on the bandit head stiffened. While everyone was stupefied at the result, a sudden anguish scream pulled everyone back. Turning towards the direction of the scream, they saw Huang Xiaolong 10 meters away from his original spot, and another 2 bandits fell under Huang Xiaolong's blades. Ignoring the surprised expression directed at him, Huang Xiaolong's blades continued to draw blade without calling out his martial spirit. Kill! Kill that punk! After a few more bandits died, the bandit head finally regained his focus, and his face ugly as he pointed a finger at Huang Xiaolong while thundering his orders. He flashed and disappeared, once again targeting Huang Xiaolong with a second palm strike. Unfortunately, when he got close enough to Huang Xiaolong, a silhouette rushed out of nowhere and hit the bandit head, causing him to tumble away and crash severely on the ground. That person was one of the 10th Order Cosmic Star Academy teachers who rushed over after seeing the signal Yang released to the sky. Seeing that reinforcement had arrived, Chen Feirong finally relaxed a little. At this point, the rest of the other team's students and the other 10th Order teacher had also reached the square. With the 2 10th Order warriors entering the scene, the 8th Order bandits laying siege on Chen Feirong were easily dealt with, and a short while later, over 300 bandits were solved by Huang Xiaolong and the students. In the end, only the bandit head remained. Chen Feirong slowly stepped towards the bandit head with her sword in her hand and an icy expression on her face. I am from the Beilong Kingdom's Marshal Ning family, and my big brother is Marshal Ning family's patriarch. Little slut, you dare to kill me? The bandit head howled when he saw Chen Feirong coming towards him with a sword in hand. Marshal Ning family? Everyone present was startled. This Marshal Ning family was the first family of the Beilong Empire. This group of bandits was actually supported by the Marshal Ning family. No wonder their average strength was so high, incomparable to those previous bandit groups. Before anyone could react, the blades of Asura in Huang Xiaolong's hands slashed across his throat, and the bandit head grasped at his own throat while looking at Huang Xiaolong with disbelief. I am Cosmic Star Academy's Huang Xiaolong. Huang Xiaolong introduced himself. Beilong Kingdom's Marshal Ning family? So what? Chapter 96. Arrest him. Moments after Huang Xiaolong slit the throat of the bandit head, the ground started to shake, and within seconds came the sounds of soldiers and of neighing horses. It seems like the Luotong Kingdom's border garrison army arrived. Just like how it was on Earth in his previous life, the police always comes after problems were solved. A short while later, about 1,000 soldiers from 2 brigades surrounded Huang Xiaolong and the rest. These soldiers arrived at the square and saw the mountain of corpses from the townspeople and the bandits, and the expression on their faces changed. Although none of them knew what took place, each of them could guess roughly what happened. General Qin, look. That one looks like the Marshal Ning family's Ning Fei. The Marshal Ning family patriarch's brother. A lieutenant general suddenly pointed at the bandit head's corpse while talking to General Qinshi. General Qinshi's gaze followed the direction of the finger, and when he saw the bandit head's body he frowned. Yes, it was Ning Fei. This Ning Fei had crossed the border and did some crimes, but he escaped the last time, and this was the reason Qinshi recognized Ning Fei. General Qin, with Ning Fei's death, this matter will be difficult to handle. Ning Wang definitely would pressure us through the Beilong Kingdom's king to make us hand over the murderer. That lieutenant general said, and he added, you see. Qinshi nodded. If it was someone with no background, then it was fine, but the one who died was Ning Fei, so it was bound to bring problems. Who killed him? Qinshi pointed at the bandit head and snapped. I killed him. Huang Xiaolong replied indifferently. Go capture him. Qinshi signaled the soldiers to him. Yes, General. And several soldiers surrounded Huang Xiaolong. Stop! You dare? Chen Feirong snapped angrily, and came up with the students and teachers from the Cosmic Star Academy, glaring with wrath at Qinshi and the soldiers. There was a faint cold smile on Huang Xiaolong as he watched Qinshi, and his calm voice sounded, according to the kingdom's law, killing border bandits is a meritorious deed that will be awarded. So, I would like to ask, why would you not follow the kingdom's law and want to capture me instead? Qinshi choked on Huang Xiaolong's words. Presumptuous. Little brat, you committed a cruel murder, yet you're still dreaming of meritorious award? Qinshi had yet to speak before the lieutenant general next to him had already flared up. Come, arrest that little brat. However, before they could get close to Huang Xiaolong, those soldiers were slapped away by Chen Feirong and the two 10th order teachers. You actually dare to rebel? That lieutenant general saw the three people obstructing his soldiers, and questioned them aloud, accusing Chen Feirong and the two teachers of a capital crime. What an audacious accusation! At this point, a voice sounded. Who? Roll out here. That lieutenant general barked. A path opened amongst the students as a person walked out to the front, and it was Prince Lu Kai. When Qinshi saw Lu Kai, the skin of his face was taut with tension. However, the lieutenant general did not recognize Lu Kai. Go and arrest him together. Stop! Qinshi quickly roared, and before the shocked eyes of the lieutenant general and the soldiers, Qinshi jumped down from his horse and arrived in front of Lu Kai in hurried steps. He knelt down on one knee and saluted. Qinshi greets His Highness Prince Lu Kai. His Royal Highness. That lieutenant general and the soldiers were shocked into a daze. Recovering, each quickly alighted their horses and knelt down, saluting His Prince Highness. That lieutenant general bowed so low he was practically kissing the ground in salute, and cold sweat trickled down the side of his face. All of you rise, but as for you, continue kneeling. Lu Kai permitted Qinshi and all the other soldiers to stand up except for that one lieutenant general that was told to continue kneeling on the ground. Qinshi stood up and came up beside Lu Kai, whereas Lu Kai observed the lieutenant general with cold eyes. You ordered to have me arrested? The beads of cold sweat on the lieutenant general's face grew bigger, and kowtowing ruthlessly he pleaded, I did not realize it was His Royal Highness. I hope His Royal Highness forgives this one's mistake. Lu Kai continued, You said we wanted to rebel? That lieutenant general ashen instantly, not knowing how to answer. In his heart he was already prepared to die. Then Lu Kai turned around and looked at Qinshi, a look that made Qinshi's hair stand up in fear. You wanted to arrest him. Do you know who he is? Lu Kai asked Qinshi as his eyes indicated towards Huang Xiaolong. Qinshi obediently looked towards Huang Xiaolong. He is Huang Xiaolong. Lu Kai stated. What? Huang Xiaolong. He is that Huang Xiaolong? Qinshi, the lieutenant general, and the many soldiers' heads made an abrupt turn in Huang Xiaolong's direction, and without a doubt, each and every one of them was greatly shocked. Huang Xiaolong, top grade 12 martial spirit of the primordial divine black dragon, the Luotong kingdom's first talent. This message had spread far and wide throughout the Luotong kingdom, from the commoners below to the generals and nobles above. Who does not know about him? Even some of the prominent forces in the neighboring kingdoms knew a talented monster of a youth had appeared in the Luotong kingdom. It was Qinshi's turn to break out in a cold sweat. Huang Xiaolong has deep connections with Marshal Haoshan. This he already knew. Hearing Huang Xiaolong's name, the lieutenant general lost all color in his face. Earlier he was prepared to die, but now he wasn't sure if he could die in peace. This matter, I will report to my royal father. Lu Kai added. Qinshi and his little lieutenant general quivered. The two of them were still rooted to the spot even after the team from Cosmic Star Academy left. And after leaving the little town, they did not return to the royal city, and instead, they moved on to other small towns to kill bandits. 2 months later, the team headed back to the royal city from the border. As for the bet between Huang Xiaolong and Lu Kai, needless to say, Huang Xiaolong won. Some months later the team returned, due to meritorious deeds for annihilating bandits at the border. Rewards from the Luotong kingdom were quickly awarded down. According to law, the rate of one band, it was 100 gold coins, and Huang Xiaolong received more than 10,000 gold coins in reward. Not long after that, Qinshi was demoted to lieutenant general, and the lieutenant general was removed from the military with a notice. When Huang Xiaolong returned to Tangshuan Mansion, his parents and little siblings were there with Lai Lu too. On that same night, Tangshuan Mansion held a banquet to celebrate Huang Xiaolong's success in passing the class advancement test. The banquet was very lively, especially with the two little ones, Huang Min and Huang Xiaohai. After the banquet ended, and everyone went back to their rooms to rest, Huang Xiaolong, Marshal Haoshan, and Fei Hu sat in the main hall. During these past 2 months, did the big sword sect people appear nearby? Huang Xiaolong asked. Replying sovereign no, Marshal Haoshan answered, but subordinate found out that next month, Big Sword Sect will hold a sect leader election ceremony. Sect leader election ceremony? Huang Xiaolong's voice was sullen. Who is Big Sword Sect's next sect leader? It's Lu Wei's junior brother named Lin Jiren, a peak late, 10th order. However, Lin Jiren's talent is quite good, and it is estimated that within 10 years' time, he will probably break through to Xianxin realm. This time it was Fei Hu who replied. Huang Xiaolong nodded, and then he requested Marshal Haoshin and Fei Hu to watch Big Sword Sect's movement closely. Please rest assured, Sovereign. Both of them replied respectfully. Huang Xiaolong withdrew 20 fire dragon pearls from the Linglong treasure pagoda space, and gave Marshal Haoshin and Fei Hu 10 each so they could use it for their cultivation. When the two of them realized that Huang Xiaolong gave them the fire dragon pearls from the Linglong treasure pagoda, objects born from the natural spiritual energy, both of them were endlessly grateful. When Marshal Haoshin and Fei Hu retired, Huang Xiaolong came to his parents' courtyard, informing them he will be training in the Silver Moon Forest in 2 days, and he left 60 fire dragon pearls with him. Back in his own room, Huang Xiaolong started his daily practice of Asura tactics. In the 2 months of killing bandits, Huang Xiaolong had advanced to mid-7th order. Huang Xiaolong entered the Linglong treasure pagoda space, swallowed fire dragon pearls, and practiced his cultivation technique. The twin dragon's martial spirits floated behind him, greedily devouring the netherworld's spiritual energy. Chapter 97. 4 years passed. 2 days passed. Like the previous time, Huang Xiaolong had all the necessities prepared and departed Tangshuan Mansion for the Silver Moon Forest. Similarly, he brought the little violet monkey with him as well. 3 months later, at a lake somewhere in the Silver Moon Forest, a stage 7 Raging Flames rhinoceros was heading to the lake. Suddenly, 2 sharp rays of blade light flashed, and that stage 7 Raging Flames rhinoceros let out a dismal howl as its blood spurted out, and it fell to the ground. When the huge rhinoceros fell, Huang Xiaolong's silhouette emerged and he came beside the beast corpse. With a wave of the blades of Asura, the beast core was dug out. Holding the beast core in his hands, Huang Xiaolong subsequently sent it into the Linglong treasure pagoda's space, so it could absorb the demonic energy inside. After absorbing that beast core, there were signs that a new fire dragon pearl would be condensed soon. This method is still too slow, Huang Xiaolong thought in his mind. During these past 3 months, Huang Xiaolong averaged 5 stage 7 demonic beasts every day, and up to now, he has killed more than 400 demonic beasts. Still, this number only birthed 20 something fire dragon pearls. Over 90 days of work, and it only resulted in 20 something fire dragon pearls. This result made Huang Xiaolong shake his head. Progressing at the speed, the fire dragon pearls could not keep up with his need. Furthermore, before he came to the Silver Moon Forest, he gave out a total of 80 fire dragon pearls to his parents, Marshal Haoshin and Fei Hu. The number of fire dragon pearls in the Linglong pagoda space was scarce to begin with, and now, 3 months later, all of it were already used up for his cultivation. But this was something out of his power. 1 more year and I can break through the 8th order, Huang Xiaolong estimated. Advancing to the 8th order meant he could hunt stage 8 demonic beasts, and the demonic energy inside a stage 8 beast core was several times more concentrated than a stage 7 beast core. At that time, perhaps the Linglong treasure pagoda could condense out 1 fire dragon pearl on a daily basis. Shy. At this point of time, the little violet monkey came running from some distance away. Seeing the raging flame rhinoceros beast corpse at the side, it started squeaking with dissatisfaction at Huang Xiaolong. Due to the Linglong treasure pagoda's need for beast cores, thus the need for this trip into the Silver Moon Forest, Huang Xiaolong turned into the little monkey's competitor for beast cores. Thus it was decided between them, the one who first killed the demonic beast would own the beast core. And every time, Huang Xiaolong's actions was always faster than it. So he can't blame that the little guy was dissatisfied. The passage of time flowed by. Months passed one after another, and soon, 9 months had passed, almost reaching the end of the year. At the end of the year, Huang Xiaolong and the little violet monkey journeyed back to Tangshuan Mansion. On the first day of the new year, Huang Xiaolong had a warm, loving reunion with his family. And of course, Huang Xiaolong participated in the Cosmic Star Academy's annual competition. Needless to say, the second-year class champion title was brought home by Huang Xiaolong, as both Lu Bai Lu Kai and Yi Yang were defeated one after the other. Although Huang Xiaolong was the class champion, the second-year overall champion was not him. With his current strength, he was not able to win over the strongest person in the second year, a peak late 8th order. Not long after spending the new year with his family, Huang Xiaolong packed up and took the little violet monkey back to the Silver Moon Forest for another bout of training. Spring ended, and autumn was on its way. 1 year passed after another like the seasons. At the end of every year, Huang Xiaolong would return to Tangshuan Mansion and take part in the academy competition. 4 years had passed. Scorching sunlight shone down on the great earth, and a young man looking around 15 to 16 years old with a little monkey on his shoulder was seen dashing through the forest speedily, akin to a fleeting phantom shadow. While running, the young man suddenly stopped and leaped upward. Just as the young man leaped away, a huge demonic bear's attack landed on the spot where the young man stood previously. Successfully dodging the demonic bear's attack, the young man turned back, and a collapsed fist punched onto the huge demonic bear's body. The power of that fist was heavy and strong, directly sinking into the demonic bear's chest, and it came out from its back, penetrating through its entire body. The huge demonic bear tumbled to the forest floor. This young man was none other than Huang Xiaolong. 4 years had passed, and he had grown into a handsome-looking youth, 5 feet 6 inches tall, close to 5 foot 7, with a lean muscular body, star-like eyes, a tall nose and red lips. 4 years had passed, and Huang Xiaolong not only advanced to the 8th order, but his current strength was at the peak of late 8th order, and anytime soon, he could break through to the next order. However, the demonic bear on the floor that was just killed by Huang Xiaolong was not a stage 8 beast, but a stage 9 demonic beast. Although only a peak late 8th order, his strength could easily kill a demonic beast of the early stage 9. Huang Xiaolong came to the huge bear corpse, and he dug out the beast core and threw it into the Linglong treasure pagoda space. Instantly, all the demonic energy inside the beast core was absorbed, turning it into a new fire dragon pearl. The energy inside a stage 9 beast core was higher than a stage 7 beast, about 10 times or more, and one stage 9 beast core was enough for the Linglong treasure pagoda to condense out one fire dragon pearl in exchange. This is the 20th. Huang Xiaolong muttered to himself. This month he had killed a total of 20 stage 9 demonic beasts. Unfortunately, compared to stage 7 and 8 demonic beasts, stage 9 demonic beasts were hard to find. On average, Huang Xiaolong could probably hunt one in a day. Shy. At this time, the little monkey jumped down and approached the corpse. Its sharp claws flipped across and it took out a bear gallbladder. Even after 4 years, the little violet monkey's appearance had no changes to it. It was still the same half-a-meter tall little monkey. The only difference was that its fur became shinier and softer, and its pupils were a sharp piercing blue. Its strength growth was no slower than Huang Xiaolong, who possessed the Linglong treasure pagoda, and their strength could be said to be equal. After killing the huge demonic bear, Huang Xiaolong and the little violet monkey left in search of the next target. 2 more months passed. The time of the end of the year once again neared. Thus, Huang Xiaolong and the little violet monkey left the Silvermoon Forest, heading back to the royal city. Half a month later, Huang Xiaolong and the little monkey were back at the Luotong royal city. Big brother. Just as he stepped into the Tangshuan mansion, a young girl about 14 to 15 years old hurried out from inside and cried out happily. This pretty young girl happened to be Wang Min, Huang Xiaolong's little sister. 4 years had turned a little girl into a young woman. Coming out, Wang Min dragged her big brother into the yards of Tangshuan mansion. Huang Xiaolong laughed at her actions. Little girl, why are you so happy? Huang Min pursed her lips and protested. Big brother, you are so mean. I have grown up. Don't call me little girl anymore. Then her eyeballs rolled naughtily, asking, wanna guess who came? Lai Lu. Huang Xiaolong laughed. These past few years, Huang Xiaolong spent most of the time training in the Silvermoon Forest and would only return to Tangshuan Mansion at the end of each year. Knowing this, Lai Lu would come to visit Tangshuan Mansion every year around this time, waiting for Huang Xiaolong. Boring. Huang Min's little mouth curled, but her expression changed quickly. Elder sister Lai Lu has been here for 5 days already. If she knows you're back, she will be very happy. Huang Xiaolong just smiled, allowing his sister Wang Min to pull him to Tangshuan Mansion's main hall. Chapter 98. Wings of Demon. Walking into the main hall, his parents, Wang Peng and Su Yan, were there. Other than the two of them, in the main hall sat a young woman wearing a long pastel green dress. The young woman has creamy white skin, soft cherry blossom lips, and bright eyes that held a trace of mischief and naughtiness, and she had 2 lovely dimples on her cheeks, akin to an immortal fairy unstained by the mortal realm. This was Lai Lu. 4 years had passed, and Lai Lu was now 15. Proving what Su Yan had said years ago, Lai Lu grew up to be a beautiful woman, and now, every time Lai Lu stepped out, it was enough to stun the whole street. The current Cosmic Star Academy has 3 big beauties, and Lai Lu is one of them. Xiaolong. Seeing Huang Xiaolong come back, the 3 people in the main hall bloomed into wide smiles and called out in delight, whereas Lai Lu forwardly jumped up and ran towards Huang Xiaolong. However, less than a meter before she reaches Huang Xiaolong and wanted to hug him like she used to do, she stopped abruptly. A pink blush crept up her face, and her demeanor turned shy. The long pastel green dress that she wore showed off her tiny waist and 2 proud peaks, painting a pretty picture that complemented her shy look. Watching her actions, Huang Xiaolong laughed. I heard Huang Min said you have been here for 5 days. Lai Lu nodded her head shyly. Okay, don't stand here and talk, let's go back to the main hall. Su Yan teased and laughed. The two of you still have many opportunities to chat. Huang Xiaolong was still fine, but when Lai Lu heard that, she turned even redder. In these 4 years, Wang Peng and Su Yan's strength had grown by a large degree. Wang Peng was now a peak late 7th order, whereas Su Yan had just advanced to the 7th order. These years both of them had been cultivating using the fire dragon pearls Huang Xiaolong gave them, and after undergoing the cleansing of Marrow's effect due to the fire dragon pearls, both of them looked younger every day. Their initial 40-something appearance became 30-something. If Su Yan stood next to Lai Lu, people would surely think they were sisters. Back in the main hall, everyone sat down. Xiaolong, this time you came back. Don't rush to leave so fast. After taking a seat, Su Yan laughed and said, this year Lai Lu will stay here and celebrate the new year with us. Not going back to Kanglin County? Huang Xiaolong was a little surprised, looked at Lai Lu and asked. Lai Lu felt embarrassed with Huang Xiaolong focusing on her, and she nodded, quietly saying, I already mentioned it to my father and grandfather that I'm not going back this year. I will stay here for the new year. But odd, if Sister Lai Lu stays here for the new year, it would be even livelier. Huang then clapped her hands in delight. Wait another 2 years, and when Sister Lai Lu marries over, then she will spend every new year here. Marry? The moment these words were spoken out, Lai Lu's delicate face went red faster than cooking a lobster. Huang Xiaolong widened his eyes and directed a stern stare at Huang Min, but she acted as if she did not see Huang Xiaolong's reaction and continued to smile complacently. Xiaolong, your little sister is right. At this time, Su Yan quickly followed up, in my opinion, in another 2 years you should marry Miss Lai Lu. I tell you, I want Miss Lai Lu this daughter-in-law, and a few years later, I want to hold my grandchildren. Grandchildren? Cold sweat appeared on Huang Xiaolong's forehead. What is this and that? Lai Lu's face was basically bright red at this point, and there wasn't any temper due to embarrassment. Instead, in her clear bright eyes, there was happiness as she stole glances at Huang Xiaolong. Instead, it was Huang Xiaolong was felt awkward at this moment, and he directed a pleading look towards his father Huang Peng, but Huang Peng only shrugged his shoulders, indicating he had no two ways about it. In fact, in this martial spirit world, marrying in the teen years was not something out of ordinary. 2 years later, Huang Xiaolong and Lai Lai would both be 17. The awkward atmosphere in the main hall did not last long as Huang Xiaohai ran in from outside. When he saw Huang Xiaolong present, he cried loudly, Big brother! Big brother! Huang Xiaohai's shouts broke the awkward atmosphere. Huang Xiaohai came back and started saying that there was a martial stage competition on the south side of the city, and that it was very lively, and he wanted to pull Huang Xiaolong along to go with him. Thus, Huang Xiaolong used it as an excuse and fled from the main hall. Deep into the night, silence was all around. The moonlight stretched Huang Xiaolong's shadow on the ground. Standing in the middle of his yard, Huang Xiaolong's left leg stepped out to the left, and he lowered his body into a squat while his upper body was straight up. Both hands at his waist and his lower arms were balanced as if they were holding heavy objects, adjusting his breathing as the spiritual energy gathered around him. 4 years and Huang Xiaolong's body metamorphosis scripture had broken through to the 6th stage, claws fleshing out like wings. The 7th stage, 9 ghosts pulling sabers, and he had finally reached the 8th stage, the 3 diagrams on the terrain. Now he was aiming to break through the 9th stage soon. The azure dragon stretching out claws. White mists came out from Huang Xiaolong's nostrils while at the same time, a white mist cloud swirled above his head, looking surreal. On Earth, they said an internal force expert when adjusting their breaths would have 3 flowers that would bloom above their heads, just like Huang Xiaolong now. Night gradually gave way to daybreak. When the morning sun came out, Huang Xiaolong finally stopped. After he stopped, Huang Xiaolong leaped up into the air and called out the blades of Asura. With a swing, countless blades lights streaked out like a sea of lightning. At the same time, Huang Xiaolong's body was somersaulting in midair as the lightning streaked, akin to a dragon swimming in the vast sea, and the oppressive aura covered all 4 corners. 4 years, not only Huang Xiaolong had practiced Wrath of the Nether King until major completion, the 4th move, State of Abundant Lightning, had achieved a minor completion. The move Huang Xiaolong had displayed just now was the State of Abundant Lightning. In regards to the Asura sword skill, the moves Huang Xiaolong had practiced so far were Tempest of Hell, Tears of Asura, Wrath of the Nether King, and the 4th being State of Abundant Lightning. Each attack skill was deeply profound and had unfathomable power, and every attack more powerful than the previous. This 4th move at major completion looked as if the attack transformed into countless lightning streaks, possessing the power to destroy heaven and earth. Huang Xiaolong turned in the sky, and after a dozen breaths' time or so, he landed lightly on the ground. When Huang Xiaolong started to learn this move, he could only stay up in the air for 4 breaths' time. With this attack of State of Abundant Lightning, The turning he made in the air was not some simple somersaults, as it followed a certain rule, which made it much harder. Landing on the ground, Huang Xiaolong did not display the same move again, but he ran Asura's tactics, and his entire body was enveloped in a dark light, and a black murderous aura spread out as his hair slowly turned white and defied gravity. At this time, Huang Xiaolong's back actually grew a pair of dark black wings. After 4 years, Huang Xiaolong's Asura tactics had reached the 4th level and could transform into an Asura's physique. The pair of black wings behind him was the wings of demon that grew after transformation. Spreading out, the wings could expand a width of 6 meters out on each side. With a flap, Huang Xiaolong flew up, reaching the average speed of a mid-9th order. Huang Xiaolong's speed had always been on the faster side, and with the wings of demon, he could achieve a speed no less than a mid-9th order. Huang Xiaolong turned a few laps around the small yard. 1 second he was at a corner, and the next moment he was up high in the air. The wings of demon coupled with his phantom shadow ability allowed Huang Xiaolong to reach a terrifying speed. Moments later, Huang Xiaolong ended his practice and came out from his Asura physique. Tomorrow is the annual competition, Huang Xiaolong said to himself. After he had advanced into the 2nd-year class, even though he was the winner in the class competition, he had never won the year category. But from this day onwards, he would rule the 2nd years. Chapter 99. This freak of a man. The next day's weather was bright and sunny. Huang Xiaolong and Fei Hu left Tangshuan Mansion and headed in the direction of the Cosmic Star Academy. In the past 4 years, Fei Hu had worked hard practicing the liquid thunder arts that Huang Xiaolong taught him, and not too long ago, it finally paid off when he stepped into the Xiantian realm. Xiantian realm. In the entire the Luotong Kingdom, the number of Xiantian experts probably could be counted on one hand. Needless to say, this had something to do with Fei Hu swallowing the fire dragon pearls that Huang Xiaolong gave him throughout these past 4 years, helping Fei Hu to temper and strengthen his physique as well as enhancing the quality of his battle kai. Thus, in comparison, Fei Hu was much stronger than the average same-level Xiantian experts. By the time Fei Hu and Huang Xiaolong arrived at the Academy's Holy Hall, there were already many people crowding the area. Huang Xiaolong's arrival turned him into one of the centers of attention. These past few years, although Huang Xiaolong practically never attended any of the classes and rarely appeared in the Academy, thereby keeping a low profile, he still can't escape being a popular topic of discussion in the Academy. Also, ever since he was promoted to the 2nd year, he held the winner title for the 2nd year Class 6 for 4 consecutive years by using only one move to defeat his opponent in every match. Quite a huge commotion swept through the crowd when they spotted Huang Xiaolong. Some die-hard fangirls shrieked excitedly, unable to control their emotions. Huang Xiaolong, you're so handsome. Huang Xiaolong, I love you. Huang Xiaolong was known for his talent and strength, but his looks weren't bad either, so it wasn't strange that many female students considered him as their knight in shining armor. In fact, this was not limited to the boundaries of the Academy. Huang Xiaolong's fame had reached the daughters of nobles in the royal city and other counties too, as well as the commoners. Hearing the high-pitched shrieks of confessions, Huang Xiaolong smiled helplessly in his heart, while he walked towards the 2nd year's seating area. Lu Kai had arrived earlier, could not resist teasing. Xiaolong, now your influence in the Academy has surpassed even Principal Sun Jiang. Although Lu Kai lost to Huang Xiaolong every time he challenged him, it helped build their sense of camaraderie, and they had become good friends. Huang Xiaolong shook his head and laughed. Don't laugh at me. I think your influence is even bigger than mine. Lu Kai, being the Luotong Kingdom's prince and the successor to the throne, meant that his influence truly was not weak. After all, he was an actual prince in many young girls' hearts. Hearing this, Lu Kai smiled and said, Are you aiming for the 2nd year's champion? I heard that Chen Kexu has broken through to the 9th order. She is not an easy opponent. Chen Kexu was the 2nd year champion for 2 consecutive years back-to-back. 9th order already? Although a little surprised, Huang Xiaolong was not perturbed by the news. Noticing Huang Xiaolong's calm expression, Lu Kai continued to add, I advise you not to provoke that chick. Her moves has always been ruthless, especially towards men. I'm not sure how, but I heard how several foolish guys provoked her and in the end, their lower parts were nearly crippled. When Lu Kai said this, his legs involuntarily tightened in the middle. Huang Xiaolong smiled faintly. Don't worry. A short while later, Sun Jiang and Shen Chu arrived at the Holy Hall, said some encouraging words, and proceeded to announce the starting of the competition. Like every year, the competition was divided into 3 large areas. Every class has a student nominated by the class teacher, and those who disagreed could issue a challenge on the stage. In the 2nd year Class 6, Huang Xiaolong was the strongest, and this was something recognized by the whole class, while the second was Lu Kai instead of Yang. In the past 4 years, Lu Kai also trained hard and his strength has surpassed the original number 1, Yang. Huang Xiaolong and Lu Kai stood on the stage. I don't believe that this time I still can't take one move from you. Lu Kai looked at Huang Xiaolong and said, ever since the two of them were promoted into the second year, he was defeated with just one move every year. Huang Xiaolong smiled, keeping silent. This time, a dazzling light shrouded Lu Kai's body and his sky-paying martial spirit was called out. Strong, violent battle Kai towered to the sky, as Lu Kai instantly soul transformed, not wasting a second. A layer of feather-like armor covered Lu Kai, and 4 powerful wings could be seen emerging from his back, spreading out, causing the surrounding airflow to become turbulent. Colossal Decimation Fist. The moment after Lu Kai's soul transformed, he already moved and appeared inches away from Huang Xiaolong with his fist punched out, whistling across the air. A huge fist print swooped down on Huang Xiaolong, drowning the stage area in an eerie silence of decimation. This colossal decimation fist was a battle skill Lu Kai had spent these past few years practicing, and he had finally succeeded 2 months ago. Although he knew even with the colossal decimation fist that he would not be able to defeat Huang Xiaolong, Lu Kai believed he could block one attack of Huang Xiaolong's. Watching an enormous fist print blanketing him, Huang Xiaolong remained standing on the same spot looking like he had no intention to dodge. Instead, Huang Xiaolong attacked. His fist struck out, meeting Lu Kai's head-on. The two fists collided, and a thunderous boom resounded. The colossal decimation fist shattered in the blink of an eye, and Lu Kai was seen wobbling back, falling out of the stage before steadying himself. When Lu Kai steadied himself, he was dazed for a moment, and then he shook his head and smiled wryly as he looked at Huang Xiaolong. It seems I would need a miracle to win against you in my lifetime. He still remembered the first time the two of them fought in the first-year competition. At that time, Huang Xiaolong needed to exert his full effort to defeat him, but when they advanced to the second-year class, he lost to Huang Xiaolong in just one move. Now, he barely had the courage to challenge Huang Xiaolong anymore. After Lu Kai was defeated, no one from the same class dared to challenge Huang Xiaolong. Thus, without any suspense, Huang Xiaolong was the second-year class 6 winner once again. Next was the year competition. The second year had a total of 6 classes to determine the final winner. There were 3 stages of competition. Among the 6 students, 3 came from the following classes minus class 1, 5, and 6, and they were chosen to draw sticks. However, when everyone saw Huang Xiaolong drew the number 1 stick, a soft commotion rippled through the crowd. Number 1. It was actually the number 1 stick. Looking at the number stated on the stick, Huang Xiaolong could not resist, shaking his head with a wry smile. Number 1 stick represented Chen Kexu, the same person Lu Kai had mentioned earlier, the woman that was merciless towards men. His followed Huang Xiaolong and Chen Kexu as the both of them went up to the stage. Chen Kexu wore a soft lavender dress, pretty yet she had the bearings of a noble. Not only was Chen Kexu recognized as the second year's number 1 person, like Lai Lu, she was one of the 3 famous beauties of the Cosmic Star Academy. Be warned, she was a rose full of deadly thorns. Her decisiveness was just as well known as her beauty. Huang Xiaolong, for Lai Lu's sake, I will be gentler later. Chen Kexu's eyes scrutinized Huang Xiaolong from top to bottom and said, gentler? A woman saying such words to a man would definitely cause a misunderstanding. Subsequently, weird looks were directed towards the stage with the 2 of them from the crowd. Huang Xiaolong cast a glance at Lai Lu. He knew Lai Lu and Chen Kexu were good friends. When Lai Lu noticed Huang Xiaolong's sight on her, she grinned playfully at Huang Xiaolong, revealing 2 cute dimples. Huang Xiaolong relaxed his shoulders and returned his attention on Chen Kexu, saying if you want it this way, then start. Battle K rushed out from Huang Xiaolong's body, and the strong momentum vibrated in the air. Peak lay, Taith order. All around, shock eyes fixed their stares at Huang Xiaolong. After experiencing a moment of blankness due to shock from Huang Xiaolong's revelation, Lu Kai smiled wryly inside. At the moment, he was only at peak late's Event order, whereas Huang Xiaolong had reached the peak of late Taith order. At this moment, he truly understood the gap between them. Chen Kexu was also staring at Huang Xiaolong with a surprised expression. Peak late Taith order. Huang Xiaolong will be 15 after the coming new year, right? A 15-year, rolled peak late Taith order. Although she herself was an early 9th order, she was already 20. According to Huang Xiaolong's cultivation speed, what level would he reach by the time he is 20 years old? Peak late 10th order? It was truly possible. This freak of a man. Chen Kexu could not help muttering to herself. Chapter 100. Yuming missing. Freak of a man? Although Chen Kexu's voice was very low, Huang Xiaolong still caught her words. Helplessly he smiled. Must this Chen Kexu be this direct? If it was 6 months ago, perhaps you could have won against me, but now, just relying on your peak late Taith order's strength, it will be impossible to defeat me. At this time, Chen Kexu spoke while shaking her head, and she fully released her battle kai. A battle ki energy stronger than Huang Xiaolong's by many folds spread out. 9th order. A flurry of surprise exclamations came from the crowd. Still, Huang Xiaolong maintained his calm. This Chen Kexu really did break through to the ninth order. On the main platform, Sun Jiang's attention was on Huang Xiaolong, and he was smiling as he spoke to Chen Chu. This little guy is giving us another surprise. He actually reached peak late order in such a short time. Yes, we initially thought he would need at least another year to reach the stage. Chen Chu agreed, but Chen Kexu is a ninth order. I'm afraid the little guy won't be able to win this year. Sun Jiang chuckled. Not necessarily. Did you forget during his first year? At that time Lu Kai was already a seventh order. In the end, Xiaolong still won. Chen Chu hesitated. Still, Chen Kexu is a ninth order. Whether he wins or not, we will know soon enough. Sun Jiang said. Let's wait for the result. At this time on the stage, Chen Kexu called out her martial spirit. An embroidery needle. A golden embroidery needle that was decorated densely with silver flowers. The silver-flowered golden needle was a type of grade 7 martial spirit. Even the appearance was no different than the usual sewing needle. However, to many people, it was a scary martial spirit because these types of martial spirit have terrifying attack power. The needle size can be changed from small to big, making it hard to defend against them. Chen Kexu instantly soul transformed after calling out her silver-flowered golden needle, making her body glitter in silver and gold. Suddenly, Chen Kexu swung both of her arms. Rain of flowers. After that, countless gold and silver needles emerged out of thin air that rotated at high speed since they were flowers of gold and silver blooming in the sky. And it was truly a fascinating picture. In a heartbeat, Huang Xiaolong was surrounded. Xiaolong, careful! Lai Lu exclaimed anxiously. As Lai Lu's voice stopped, Huang Xiaolong was already gripping the blades of Asura in his hands. Both hands swung out and a wave of bladed lights swept out and dang sounds echoed endlessly. Those countless gold and silver needles were deflected by Huang Xiaolong. Wrath of the Nether King. Huang Xiaolong suddenly swung out again, and crashing sounds vibrated in the air as the crowd watched two groups of bladed lights surge out like raging magma, like tens of thousands of beasts, stampeding towards Chen Kexu. The entire hall shook when Huang Xiaolong attacked using the Wrath of Nether King. The crowd was dumbstruck. Gold needle, silver armor. Shocked, Chen Kexu quickly waved her hands and the blooms of gold and silver flowers separated, returning to a sea of gold needles that formed into layers of armor on her body. A deafening crash filled the hall. The large force of the impact pushed Chen Kexu back again and again. While Chen Kexu was trying to gain a foothold, Huang Xiaolong's silhouette flickered past like a shadow. Martial spirit ability. Phantom shadow. In a split second, Huang Xiaolong appeared in front of Chen Kexu, and his fist punched out without hesitation. Collapse fist. The effect overlapped and increases the power of the punch. In that situation, Chen Kexu was flustered and in a haste, her palm shot out to block the attack. A fist against a palm. Both shook from the impact, but it was Chen Kexu who was pushed back again. Chen Kexu was in shock. She is a ninth order. Moreover, she had soul transformed. In this physique, her battle kai power was actually weaker compared to a yet soul transformed Huang Xiaolong. What kind of cultivation technique does this Huang Xiaolong practice? No shadow, no form. Being forced by Huang Xiaolong until she reached the edge of the stage, Chen Kexu was angry after getting over her shock. Again, her arms stretched out and countless numbers of gold needles pierced towards Huang Xiaolong. But these gold needles suddenly disappeared halfway, and the surrounding air returned to its calmness without the slightest fluctuations. This was the silver-flowered golden needle's strongest attack. No shadow, no form, making it hard to defend against. I wonder how this little guy will counter Chen Kexu's attack. If he can't, then the result is obvious. Ching Chu mused aloud on the main platform. Sun Jiang was also focusing on Huang Xiaolong's figure on the stage, and like Chen Chu, he was also very curious how Huang Xiaolong would break this attack from Chen Kexu. Below the stage, Lai Lu's heart tightened with worry. Including Lu Kai, Chen Feirong, and the rest of the class was staring fixedly on Huang Xiaolong. While everyone waited in suspense, Huang Xiaolong suddenly leaped up, his body turning non-stop and his blades out. The crowd saw numerous bladed lights turn into lightning streaks. As Huang Xiaolong continued turning in midair, the lightning streaks became angrier. In the lightning flashes, the supposedly shadowless and formless gold needles became visible before the eyes, and they were scattered away by the lightning. At the same time, the area of lightning expanded, covering the entire stage. Unable to dodge, Chen Kexu was struck by lightning and fell off the stage. Only after Chen Kexu fell off did Huang Xiaolong gradually stop turning and landed on the stage, and the many flashes of lightning dissipated. Witnessing this result, the people around were stunned. This turn of events was too big that even Sun Jiang and Chen Chu on the main platform had difficulty reacting in a timely manner. In the blink of an eye, Chen Kexu actually lost. That move that little guy used just now, did you recognize what battle skill it was? Moments later, Sun Jiang asked Chen Chu after he recovered. Chen Chu shook his head. I have cultivated for almost 100 years and have never seen such a battle skill, but that move is probably a succedent to the battle skill he used to defeat Liu Kai. Sun Jiang nodded in agreement, and then said, this kid didn't need to call out his primordial divine black dragon martial spirit to defeat Chen Kexu. I think if he calls out his black dragon martial spirit, he probably could defeat a mid-ninth order expert. At this point, the students and teachers in the huge hall broke out in thunderous cheers and applause, especially Lai Lu, who was clapping with all her might, her beautiful eyes shining while looking extremely charming. Falling out from the stage, Chen Kexu did not look devastated or upset. Instead, it seemed like she was thinking of something as she looked at Huang Xiaolong. Chen Kexu came beside Lai Lu, smiled, and said, little sis, I really envy you. In another 2 years, when the two of you get married, remember to tell me. Hearing this, Lai Lu's lovely face blushed. Sis, what are you saying, Tilda? Chen Kexu laughed, seeing Lai Lu's shy expression. Soon the first year, second year, the third year, and the academy overall results came out. Huang Xiaolong was rewarded with an early grade 5 Spirit Dan. When the event ended and everyone dispersed, Sun Jiang and Shen Chu held Huang Xiaolong back and gave him another high grade 5 Spirit Dan. This had become a routine. Every year after the annual competition, other than the usual reward, Sun Jiang and Shen Chu would give Huang Xiaolong another high grade 5 Spirit Dan. Of course, the two of them assumed the reason why Huang Xiaolong's cultivation advanced at such speed was due to this gift every year. In fact, they did not know that these Spirit Dans Huang Xiaolong was given were distributed to either his parents or siblings. After the academy annual competition ended, Huang Xiaolong and Fei Hu returned to Tangshuan Mansion. When they came back, Marshal Haoshan was waiting for them in the main hall. Still no news of your master Yuming? Huang Xiaolong asked. 4 years has passed since Yuming departed to the Star Cloud continent, returning to Asura's Gate headquarters. However, there was no news of him, and since then, it was as if he disappeared into thin air. In the last 2 years, Huang Xiaolong had asked Marshal Haoshan and Fei Hu to look into news regarding Yuming. Chapter 101. Break through minus the ninth order. Replying Sovereign, there is still no news of Master. Marshal Haoshan reported, and his face showed a worried expression. Please punish this subordinate. These past 2 years, he failed to find news or the whereabouts of his master, and this made him feel ashamed to face Huang Xiaolong. Huang Xiaolong shook his head. This matter can't be blamed on you. Stand up. Subordinate, thanks Sovereign. Marshal Haoshan said. Huang Xiaolong fell into a contemplative mood. If there was no accident, 2 years was enough for Yuming to reach the Asura's Gate headquarters in Star Cloud continent and back. However, until now Yuming has not come back, and that can only mean one thing: minus Yuming met with some problems. Although he can't confirm that Yuming's disappearance is related to his senior brother, the main chief of Asura's Gate, Chen Tanqi, what he was sure of is, at the moment, was that Chen Tanqi still doesn't know about his existence. Otherwise, Chen Tanqi would surely send people here to kill him and snatch the Asura ring away. However, sooner or later Chen Tanqi would come to know about him. Thus, Huang Xiaolong must make preparations in advance. Strength, he needed more strength. Despite possessing superb talent, twin martial spirits, and the number 9 heavenly treasure, the Linglong treasure pagoda, which contributed to his unbelievable cultivation speed, about 10 to 20 times faster than normal people, to Huang Xiaolong, it was still too slow. Huang Xiaolong must at least be a Saint Realm warrior when facing Chen Tanqi to be able to protect himself. Saint Realm, not to mention the Luotong Kingdom, even the neighboring kingdoms, do not have a Saint Realm expert. To break through to the Saint Realm was easier said than done. The famous number 1 expert of the Duanran Empire, the Duanran Emperor, possessing a top grade 13 martial spirit, was 123 years old when he stepped into the Saint Realm. Thinking about this, Huang Xiaolong frowned. At this point in time, he wanted to increase his strength faster, and the only way was to subdue more heavenly treasures. At the moment, the only heavenly treasure location that he knew of was the number 4 at Duanran Institute, the Absolute Soul Pearl. In short, he urgently needed to break through to the 10th order. As long as he can break through to the 10th order, he is confident he can capture the overall Academy Championship and proceed to participate in the Imperial City battle. At that time, he has the chance to search and conquer the Absolute Soul Pearl. Furthermore, by becoming a student of the Duanran Institute, he is allowed to purchase a mansion in the Imperial City, thereby relocating his parents and little siblings. There is not an issue, and it would be much safer than the Luotong Kingdom. Seeing Huang Xiaolong fall into deep contemplation, Marshal Haoshan and Fei Hu dared not interrupt. Moments later, Huang Xiaolong came out from his pensiveness and asked Marshal Haoshan and Fei Hu about the information for Beilong Kingdom's Big Sword Sect and the Marshal Ning family. The two of them reported all they knew. In the past years, Big Sword Sect had indeed sent people over to assassinate Huang Xiaolong's parents several times, but both remained safe under the protection of the Marshal Mansion's guards. And since that year Huang Xiaolong killed Ning Fei of the Marshal Ning family during his class advancement test at the kingdom's border, the Marshal Ning family's patriarch, Ning Wang, also sent people to assassinate Huang Xiaolong and his family a few times. Thus, when Huang Xiaolong breaks through to the Xiantian realm, the first thing he would do is destroy Big Sword Sect and the Martial Ming family. After asking about the matters regarding the Big Sword Sect and Martial Ming family, Huang Xiaolong proceeded to ask about Tangshuan Mansion's matters. Since the first year he came to the royal city, Huang Xiaolong had instructed Fei Hu to procure some slaves to cultivate his own army, and for the past few years, the number and strength of his servants had increased exponentially, and under Huang Xiaolong's encouragement, they had started the 9-tripod commerce, mainly dealing in reading material printing like those entertainment magazines on Earth. Although the 9-tripod commerce was set up for merely 2 years, the operation and management were quite satisfactory, opening more than a dozen branches in the Luotong Kingdom itself. The daily publication exceeded 10,000 and a profit of several thousand gold coins. Now, all expenses of Tangshuan Mansion were covered by profits from the 9-tripod commerce. Fei Hu next year expand the operation of 9-tripod commerce. There must be a branch in every county. You handle the details. Huang Xiaolong said. Yes, sovereign. Fei Hu replied respectfully. On another hand, below the 9-tripod commerce location, form an underground assassin organization. You can pick the recruits. Huang Xiaolong continued. It was time to return Big Sword Sect and Martial Ming family kindness with some retaliation of his own. Fei Hu acknowledged him respectfully. A short while after that, Marshal Haoshan and Fei Hu left the main hall. Just seconds after both of them left, his little sister, Wang Min, and Lai Lu came over. Wang Min pulled and shook Huang Xiaolong's arm, demanding he accompany them shopping. With no escape, he relented. The whole afternoon was spent strolling around the city, and when he returned to his courtyard, Huang Xiaolong started to practice Asura tactics. Asura tactics. Huang Xiaolong had reached the 3rd level and was able to condense the wings of demon. When he stepped into the 4th level, the Eye of Hell would open in his forehead. The advantage of this Eye of Hell was that it could see through the real nature of things, even through concealment, and it could launch a spiritual attack. When he reached the 4th stage, his Asura physique would grow stronger overall. But according to Huang Xiaolong's estimation, he would need to break through to the Xiantian realm before he could step into the 4th level of Asura tactics. 10 days passed. In the courtyard, Huang Xiaolong spent the day practicing Asura sword skill, and at night he focused on Asura tactics and the body metamorphose scripture. As for the golden Linglong body, Huang Xiaolong had reached the 2nd stage. Reaching the 2nd stage meant that he could absorb more of the fire dragon K from the pagoda, strengthening his body by itself. After 10 days passed, the new year drew closer. Every corner of Tangshuan Mansion was brightly decorated, creating a cheerful, festive atmosphere. One of the changes to the Tangshuan Mansion in the past 4 years was it had expanded and doubled in land area. Just the guards amounted to more than 600, whereas the servants and maids were close to 100. With the new year coming, Wang Peng and Su Yan were busy buying things and getting ready to welcome the new year. On New Year's Eve, Huang Xiaolong abandoned his practice routine to accompany his family and Lai Lu, chatting and laughing to pass the night. On the first day of New Year, the whole family went to some famous scenic spots in the royal city. The new year came and went, and Huang Xiaolong continued to work hard practicing. Half a month later during the night, the moonlight shone like water. Huang Xiaolong was sitting cross-legged in the Linglong Treasure Pagoda's space, continuously running Asura tactics, and the netherworld battle K rolled and surged in his meridians and Kai Si, rolling and crashing. Huang Xiaolong had a feeling that tonight, he would break through to the 9th order. A black and a blue twin dragon emerged behind Huang Xiaolong, coiled in the air, exuding a dragon's oppressive aura in the space. 4 years since he broke through to the 7th order, the twin dragon's martial spirit had grown bigger. As the netherworld battle Kai raged in his meridians and Kai Si, the barrier towards the 9th order became thinner and thinner, and every time his battle Kai crashed against the barrier, a wave of pain traveled from his meridians. It was more painful than any other time he had broken through, at least by a few folds, even 10 times more painful. Huang Xiaolong endured the pain while insistently pushing his battle Kai. It felt like a long century passed before Huang Xiaolong's body shuddered suddenly, and a subtle breaking sound came from inside his body. The 8th order netherworld battle Kai rushed cheerfully into the 9th order meridians, and at the same time, the netherworld battle Kai in his Kai Si was compressed down as it gathered more and more in the expanded Kai Si. The 9th order finally, the black and blue dragon behind Huang Xiaolong roared towards the sky. The dragon's scales on their body became denser and shinier. The Linglong Treasure Pagoda shook as it broke out in a dazzling bright light. Chapter 102. The Yu-Y Kingdom. Finally, he had broken through to the 9th order. The sky was getting clearer, and Huang Xiaolong stopped practicing with delight in his heart. A 9th order in any families or big counties within the Luotong Kingdom's territory was a force in one's own right. In the previous Huang clan manor, other than Huang Kaide, only the chief steward Chen Ying was a 9th order expert. Those so-called Huang clan Manor's elders were just at the 8th order or worse the peak late 7th order. Huang Zhaolong came out from the Linglong treasure pagoda space. Just as he came out from there and out of the room he ran into Fei Hu. Seeing him, Fei Hu exclaimed in shock, "Sovereign, could it be you?" He already was a ancient expert, and Huang Zhaolong did not intentionally hide his breath fluctuations. Thus Fei Hu noticed the difference at first sight. Huang Zhaolong nodded and laughed. "I was lucky and I was able to break through last night." Fei Hu felt a dizzy spell. Was lucky? To Fei Hu it felt as if every other day he would come across Sovereign's lucky breakthroughs. But wasn't this level of lucky coincidences a little too abnormal? After a while, Fei Hu repressed the shock in his heart, but he still hesitated for a moment. "Sovereign, this subordinate would like to make a trip home." Fei Hu honestly brought up his request. "Go home?" Huang Zhaolong choked, and dazed for a moment, he still yet had not connected the dots. Fei Hu had followed Huang Zhaolong for 7 years, but he had never mentioned anything about his family. That was why when Fei Hu mentioned the matter, he was a little slow on the uptake. "Yes, Sovereign, just now a letter came from my son. He said next month my eldest grandson is getting married and I have not been back for 7 years. Therefore, this subordinate wants to go home and take a look." Fei Hu explained, feeling slightly embarrassed. When Huang Zhaolong recovered, he smiled and said, "Fei Hu, this is a big happy event." "Ah, no need to feel embarrassed." He asked, "Then where is your home?" "This subordinate is a marquis of the Ui Kingdom." Fei Hu answered, "The Ui Kingdom?" Huang Zhaolong was surprised by this news. It had occurred to Huang Zhaolong that Fei Hu might not be a Luotong Kingdom local, but he did not expect Fei Hu to be a marquis from the Ui Kingdom. The Luotong Kingdom was located at the south side of the Silver Moon Forest, whereas the Ui Kingdom sits on the north side. This knowledge was gained from the hours he spent in the Academy's library. The Ui Kingdom was one of the strongest kingdoms amongst the 1,000 over kingdoms under Duanrun Empire, and was much stronger than the Luotong Kingdom many times over. "When do you plan to leave?" Huang Zhaolong asked. "This subordinate plans to leave in another 2 days." Fei Hu answered, "How about this? I will make this trip with you to the Ui Kingdom." Huang Zhaolong suggested in a low voice. Fei Hu was startled. "Sovereign, you want to come with this subordinate to Ui Kingdom then?" Huang Zhaolong waved his hand unconcernedly and laughed. "Since it is your eldest grandson's wedding, no matter what, I must also prepare a wedding gift. Moreover, I also want to have a look around a new place. Am I not welcome?" Since he came to this world, other than the Luotong Kingdom, Huang Zhaolong's time was spent in the Silver Moon Forest training, and because of that, he wanted to take this opportunity to go outside. Fei Hu quickly smiled. "Sovereign is going with the subordinate. Of course I am very happy." Huang Zhaolong said, "Then you go and make the proper arrangements. We'll depart the day after tomorrow." "Yes, thank you, Sovereign." Fei Hu replied respectfully, turned around and left to make arrangements. After Fei Hu left, Huang Zhaolong went to the main hall. Both of his parents, Huang Peng and Su Yan, were there, and Huang Zhaolong told them he would be leaving to Ui Kingdom with Fei Hu in 2 days' time. When they heard that, although a little unexpected, neither one objected. These years, Huang Zhaolong had spent most of his time outside, in the Silver Moon Forest. "Are Young coming back at the end of the year?" Huang Peng inquired. "Not sure. If nothing happens, we should be back in 6 months. Huang Zhaolong gave an estimate. Then Huang Zhaolong gave his parents roughly 10 fire dragon pearls and explained a little about the management of the 9 tripod commerce. Fei Hu was the one in charge of the 9 tripod commerce, and now that Fei Hu was going away, these things needed to be handled by his parents. Luckily his parents were involved in some aspects, and with Marshal Hayashin behind them, there shouldn't be any problems. 2 days passed. Huang Zhaolong and Fei Hu left the Luotong Kingdom, and they were sent off by a crowd of family. Just like every time before, when he leaves the royal city, Huang Zhaolong would ask Marshal Hayashin to look over his parents' and little siblings' safety. After leaving the Luotong Kingdom royal city, Huang Zhaolong and Fei Hu came before the Silver Moon Forest. Once they cut through the forest, they would arrive at the border of Ui Kingdom. This was the fastest route. While hurrying their way, the two of them could kill some demonic beasts and train. 2 months passed. In a silent night, Huang Zhaolong and Fei Hu sat near the bonfire, lighting up a small area of the dark forest. 2 months passed, and the two of them had arrived at the northest part of the Silver Moon Forest. Tomorrow, they probably could make it across the border into the Ui Kingdom. Sitting close to the bonfire, even as a Zainian, Fei Hu could not help but feel excited, thinking that he was about to return to the Fei Manor. It was 7 years of separation. How much had the Fei Manor changed in his absence? Looking at Fei Hu's face, Huang Zhaolong empathizes with his mood. The first year he left Huang Clan Manor and returned at the end of the year. He felt the same on the journey from the Luotong Royal City to Huang Clan Manor. "Another 10 days, we will reach Ui Royal City, right?" Huang Zhaolong spoke. "That's right, Sovereign," Fei Hu added. "That year when I left, Feiming, that little brat, was only 17. 7 years passed in the blink of an eye, and that brat is already getting married." Feiming was Fei Hu's eldest grandson. In his son Fei Rong's letter, this eldest grandson of his had already broken through to the 7th order, and this made Fei Hu feel comforted. When he left, Fei Ming was just a late 5th order. Night slowly faded away, and daybreak inched up from the horizon. Wang Xiaolong and Fei Hu continued onwards, and one day later, they came out from the Silver Moon Forest, reaching the Yuwai Kingdom's border. Still, with Wang Xiaolong and Fei Hu's speed, they needed at least 8 to 9 days to reach the Yuwai royal city. As they entered the Yuwai Kingdom's land, both of them would only delay little time at cities to rest for the night. 6 days passed. As the two got closer to the destination, 3 more cities popped up, and soon, they would reach the Yuwai royal city. While Wang Xiaolong and Fei Hu were hurrying, 2 carriages came from behind, and when it neared them, a surprised exclamation sounded. "Is it Senior Fei Hu?" This made Wang Xiaolong and Fei Hu turned around to look, and they saw one of the horse carriages stop, and from inside the carriage, a 20-something pretty young woman came out. Coming before Fei Hu, the pretty young woman had surprise shining in her eyes. Sounding a little awed, she asked again, "Is it Senior Fei Hu?" Fei Hu scrutinized the young woman in front of him with a puzzled expression, nodded, and said, "I am Fei Hu, and you are." He really can't recall who this young woman in front of him was. "Hey, everyone. I just wanted to take a moment to thank each and every one of you for your amazing support. Whether you've been here from the beginning or just joined, your likes, comments, and shares mean the world to me. I wouldn't be able to do this without you, and I'm beyond grateful for the love and encouragement. This channel is as much yours as it is mine, and I can't wait to keep creating content for this awesome community. Here's to more exciting videos and milestones ahead. Thank you so much." Chapter 103. Running into Bandits. The pretty young woman laughed and said, "Senior Fei, who did you forget? 7 years ago you saved me. My name is Chen Lai." She pointed at the mountains in front of them. "That year it was at that mountain area that you saved me." When the pretty woman said that, Fei Hu had a flashback. 7 years ago, he wanted to enter the Silver Moon Forest to kill a stage 10 demonic ghost eye spider, and when he passed by here, he came across a group of black-clothed men besieging a group of master and servants. Seeing the situation, he lent a little assistance and saved the victim. Just as he was about to leave, the other side said their name was Chen Lai. In fact, at that time, this Chen Lai was only a 15-16-year-old girl. After 7 years, there were some changes to her features and body, so Fei Hu can't be blamed for not remembering. "So it was you." Fei Hu was pleasantly surprised. "It is me, Senior Fei Hu." Seeing Fei Hu remember her, happiness shone on Chen Lai's face. Meeting Fei Hu after 7 years gave Chen Lai a feeling of reuniting with an old friend. "Senior Fei Hu, where are you heading to?" Chen Lai opened her mouth and asked. Fei Hu replied, "My young master and I are heading to Yuwai Royal City." At this point, Fei Hu introduced Wang Xiaolong. "This is my young lord." "Young lord?" Chen Lai was startled, as she looked at Wang Xiaolong. That year, when Fei Hu saved her, judging from the way he killed those black-clothed men, he should be a 10th order expert. But now he actually referred to the 15 to 16-year-old young man in front of him as young lord. Wang Xiaolong noted Chen Lai's expression, grinned and said, "Just call me Wang Xiaolong." Chen Lai realized her blunder, immediately said, "Oh, so it is young master Wang." She looked at Fei Hu. "Senior Fei Hu, I'm also going to Yuwai Royal City, and since it is in the same direction, how about we go together?" Fei Hu turned towards Wang Xiaolong, seeking his opinion. Wang Xiaolong nodded his head. They were not far from the Yuwai Royal City, and there were still a dozen more days until Fei Hu grandson's wedding day. Since there was no hurry, traveling together was not an issue. Fei Hu only nodded after Wang Xiaolong nodded. Seeing Fei Hu agree, joy surfaced on Chen Lai's delicate face. However, at this time, an old man that seemed to be in his 60s stepped up and interjected. "Miss, this isn't proper. We don't know these two people's backgrounds, and to have met with them here is too much of a coincidence." Chen Lai's brows creased together. "What do you mean by not knowing their background?" "Senior Fei Hu is my life savior." The old man persisted. "Miss, it is hard to see through a person's heart. It's better we—" "Enough, no need to say more." Chen Lai snapped. Seeing this, the old man stopped. Chen Lai looked embarrassedly at Wang Xiaolong and Fei Hu. "Young Master Wang, Senior Fei Hu, this is my family's steward, Liu Mu. He was just worried about my safety, so his speech was offensive. I hope young Master Wang and Senior Fei Hu don't mind." "No harm." Wang Xiaolong shook his head, but he glanced meaningfully at Liu Mu. He felt this Liu Mu trying to dissuade Chen Lai to allow Fei Hu and him going to the Yuwai Royal City together was not as simple as it seemed. Since it was like this, Wang Xiaolong's curiosity was stoked. What goal does this Liu Mu have? Thus, Wang Xiaolong and Fei Hu traveled onwards with Chen Lai's party. Wang Xiaolong and Fei Hu were riding on russet horsebacks. Russet horses were the martial spirit world's common mounts. The russet horse also belonged to the horse family, but it had much better speed than normal horses. One day passed and the sky turned dark, and Chen Lai suggested for the party to stop for the night in the forest. Wang Xiaolong had no objections. However, when the bonfire was lit and everyone was about to sit down and rest, A wave of vibrations came from the mountain path ahead. Clearly, a large number of people riding on mounts were rushing towards them. Chen Lai and her original party were stunned, jumping up from their seats. Soon, a band black-clothed men riding on various different types of beast mounts and horses appeared before the party. There were quite a number of them, reaching over 100 with an aggressive atmosphere, and from the looks of it, they were directed at this particular party. Huang Xiaolong and Fei Hu exchanged a look and both stood up. When those black-clothed men arrived at the camping site, they immediately spread out and surrounded everyone in a circle. "What do you want to do?" Chen Lai already paled. "Want to do what?" A middle-aged, one-armed man who seemed to be the bandit head smirked lecherously at Chen Lai. "Brothers, tell me, what do you want to do?" Hearing this, the bandits around broke out in crude raucous laughter. "We want to kill people. We want women." Over 100 bandits laughed wickedly, minus proud, arrogant, complacent, even a sense of euphoria before an impending massacre. "This place is close to Kang City and the Kang City Castle and is my father's best friend. If you dare," Chen Lai shouted, but before she even finished, the one-armed man broke out in fit of laughter. "Kang City's castle and I am so scared tilde. As he was saying this, he used his only hand to pat his chest as if frightened by the threat, causing his cronies to break in another bout of laughs. Chen Lai's small face turned green and red. "Go, kill the men and bring the women away." At this point, the bandit head ordered. "Yes, head." A dozen bandits drew their blades and approached Huang Xiaolong, Fei Hu and Chen Lai's several bodyguards, looking down. Sharp rays of blade lights shimmered beneath the moonlight. Chen Lai's several guards retreated in panic. Fei Hu stared at the several bandits closing in on him in sovereign, and a cold sneer appeared on his face. Both hands waved out, and a long sword was already in his hand. The long sword's sharp rays flashed, and screams came from the bandits' throats. Heads flew and headless bodies tumbled to the ground. The sudden screams startled the people around, turning towards the origin. The one-armed bandit head's arrogant, complacent smirk stiffened on his face and his eyes narrowed. "All of you retreat!" He barked the order towards the remaining bandits around Fei Hu. Hearing this, all of them quickly stepped back. "Can I know this warrior's name? This matter is not related to you, and for your safety, I advise you not to meddle in other people's affairs." The one-armed bandit head said condescendingly from above as he urged his mount forward, looking down at Fei Hu. His eyes cast a gloomy glance at Liu Mu at the side, carrying a hint of question and shock. That Liu Mu secretly shook his head. Although the two of them communicated subtlety, it did not escape Huang Xiaolong's eyes. Fei Hu did not reply. Instead he snarled, "Roll down here." As his voice sounded, lightning strikes down and instantly struck the one-armed head bandit. Screaming painfully, he fell to the ground. "Head." The bandits around were shocked, and they immediately gathered around in a protective circle. The bandit head struggled awkwardly to get up from the ground, his face dirty with soil and mud. He glared at Fei Hu while his heart felt both anger and fear. A sharp light glinted in his eyes. "Kill! Kill off this old dog." His hand waved, bellowing the order. He doesn't believe this person could fight against 100 of them, unless of course the other side was a Xiantian realm expert. But he believed his luck was not that rotten to come across a Xiantian expert here. The bandits rushed towards Fei Hu. Fei Hu's eyes swept across these bandits, his face turning cold. A bright light flashed, and a 20-meter-long silver river appeared. This was Fei Hu's martial spirit. After Fei Hu broke through to the Xiantian realm, the silver river martial spirit was wider, longer, and more compact. Dazzling silver light flickered in the dark forest. Chapter 104, Slander and Trust. Fei Hu called out his martial spirit Silver River, and swung both of his arms, and a silver river was seen surging in midair, and when the attacks from the surrounding bandits crashed into the silver river, dang 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 sounds of metals clashing could be heard, reflecting the attacks back onto the attackers. Some unfortunate bandits escaped too slowly and were thrown to the ground, their own swords stabbing into their feet. "My leg!" Amidst painful howls, these bandits jumped around like kangaroos holding their feet. Seeing this scene, the rest of the bandits were scared and retreated swiftly. Fei Hu scoffed at their reaction, and his arms kept swinging out and his silver river martial spirit turned into a solid entity. A silver-colored river meandered through the group of bandits, and where it curved, screams reverberated in the air. Some bandits were smashed to the ground and some bandits were flung high up in the air. Since stepping into Xiantian realm, Fei Hu's attack power had more than doubled. How could these 6th and 7th order vermins resist Fei Hu's attacks? Instantly, a large number of bandits laid on the ground, and seconds later, only the bandit head remained standing, albeit in a daze. Recalling his martial spirit back into his body, Fei Hu slowly walked towards the bandit head. You don't kill me!" the bandit head exclaimed in fright. "Who sent you over?" Fei Hu asked icily. The one-armed bandit head had a frantic look in his eyes. "I say, two sirs, please stop putting on an act." Suddenly, at this point, Liu Mu that was standing next to Chen Lai spoke. Everyone was stunned. Liu Mu walked out of the group slowly, glaring fiercely at Fei Hu and Huang Xiaolong, saying we have been traveling for more than half a month safely, without any incident. But it happens that right after meeting two sirs, we ran into a group of bandits. What does it represent? A sharp edge flashed across Fei Hu's eyes, but Huang Xiaolong waved his hand to stop Fei Hu and he faced Liu Mu with great interest, spurring him on. Continue. Liu Mu sneered. This group of bandits was called here by the two of you. Oh, we colluded with them. Had them come here? Huang Xiaolong maintained an aloof expression. And our motive? Liu Mu snorted and his voice sounded icy. Reason? You know very well in your hearts. Then, he turned around and fixed a deadly stare on the one-armed bandit head, threatening. Speak. Was it them who instructed you to kidnap our miss? That one-armed bandit head was agape. Say, am I right? Liu Mu's gaze bored intensely at the bandit head, and a vague ominous light flickered across his eyes. Noticing that, the bandit head immediately nodded his head vigorously. Yes, 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 it was them who told me to come here and kidnap your miss. Liu Mu spun around and said to Chen Lai, Miss, you heard him. They instructed these bandits to kidnap you. I have reminded you earlier, we don't know these two people's background. Evil lurks in the human heart. Chen Lai shook her head, disagreeing. Steward Liu Mu, there must be some misunderstanding. Senior Fei Hu is my savior, and he saved my life before, and with Senior Fei Hu's strength, he doesn't need to instruct other people to kidnap me. Liu Mu persuaded. Miss, you must be vigilant. He might have his purpose in saving you that year. 7 years have passed, and how could there be such a coincidence for Miss to encounter them at the same place? Moreover, this bandit head has already confessed. Chen Lai still shook her head. She doesn't believe Fei Hu would act this way, for it wasn't necessary. If Huang Xiaolong and Fei Hu were the main culprits at this moment, both of them could kidnap her without any resistance. Was there a need to use so much effort? At this point of time, Huang Xiaolong clapped his hands. Everyone shifted their attention to him. Huang Xiaolong looked at Liu Mu. I have to say, your little play is better than I have expected. Liu Mu's face darkened. What do you mean? What do I mean? Huang Xiaolong repeated coldly. You arranged for this group of bandits. Hearing this, the people present were taken aback. Liu Mu had an angry expression on his face. You're slandering, absolute slander. I have followed Miss more than a decade, and there is no doubt about my loyalty and devotion to Miss. You are retaliating because I exposed your trick. That's why you turn around and slander me. He quickly turned towards Chen Lai, protesting. Miss, you must not believe them. Chen Lai shook her head at Huang Xiaolong. Young Master Huang, Liu Mu has been by my side since I was little, and these past dozen years, he has loyally protected my safety. It cannot be Uncle Liu. To her, Liu Mu was even less a culprit compared to Huang Xiaolong and Fei Hu. Liu Mu's cold stare fell on Huang Xiaolong. As a stranger and outsider, do you think we will believe your nonsense? Huang Xiaolong turned towards Chen Li. You really trust him? Chen Lai nodded. Others I dare not say. But Liu Mu, I absolutely trust him. Although Chen Lai did not say it out loud, the dissatisfaction towards Huang Xiaolong was obvious in her voice. Evidently, she agreed with what Liu Mu said. Huang Xiaolong slandered Liu Mu because Liu Mu first pointed the finger at them. Liu Mu was someone who watched over her since she was little, and the feelings between them were very deep. Huang Xiaolong's accusation made her heart uncomfortable. Huang Xiaolong turned back to Fei Hu. He said, We're leaving. Since Chen Lai stated her firmly position, there was no need to say any more. Yes, young lord. Fei Hu replied respectfully. Chen Lai blanked for a moment, and she called out to Fei Hu anxiously, Senior Fei Hu, this isn't what I meant. Fei Hu shook his head, saying nothing. He quietly followed behind Huang Xiaolong and left. But before Huang Xiaolong left, suddenly, his palm struck the one-armed bandit head's chest as he was passing by. The bandit head let out a scream as he flew out, crashing into countless trees. When he hit the soil, there was no breath left. Chen Lai and everyone in her party were shocked, and before their shocked eyes, Huang Xiaolong and Fei Hu mounted on their horses and sped away. Watching the two silhouettes grew further away, Liu Mu's shock turned into great relief. His eyes furtively swept past the bandit head's corpse and the rest of the bandits, and a frown appeared on his forehead that lasted less than a second. A bunch of garbage. Miss, should we also leave this place? Liu Mu asked Chen Lai. Chen Lai nodded in agreement. Thus, not long after Huang Xiaolong and Fei Hu departed, Chen Lai, Liu Mu, and the rest of her party also journeyed out from the mountain area. Obviously that Liu Mu is in cahoots with that group of bandits. After leaving the area, Fei Hu spoke. Pity that Chen Lai trusts that Liu Mu too much. Fei Hu tilted his head up to the sky and sighed. Huang Xiaolong nodded silently. Continuing on, Huang Xiaolong and Fei Hu weren't in a rush, allowing the horse to run comfortably. On the other side, one day after Chen Lai and her party separated from Huang Xiaolong, they crossed a mountain pass when they suddenly ran into a group of black-clothed men. The way these black-clothed dressed were similar to the bandits from last night, and it was clear as day. They belonged to the same group. Watching the retreat path around her being blocked off, panic rose in Chen Lai's heart. These black-clothed men besieged Chen Lai and her party in the middle, without wasting a word, and they started slaughtering with the weapons in their hands. In just a short while, all of Chen Lai's guards and servants were killed, but what surprised Chen Lai was that these people spared Liu Mu. They did not attack him at all. While Chen Lai was still surprised, one of the bandits stepped forward towards Liu Mu, and in a polite manner he greeted him, "Steward Liu." Liu Mu nodded. Chen Lai's eyes were wide with disbelief. Chapter 105, Running into each other again. "Uncle Liu, it really was you." Chen Lai's face was filled with disbelief as she stared at Liu Mu. Even at this moment, she can't will herself to believe what was happening is real. That Huang Xiaolong and Fei Hu were right. Reaching this point, Liu Mu wasn't afraid to admit it, and he nodded his head in all frankness and said, "The group of bandits earlier was arranged by me." Chen Lai trembled with anger, yet she scared at the same time. She gritted her teeth, asking, "Why?" Liu Mu sneered, "Why? You should ask your father for the reason." "Chen Lai, don't blame me after you die, for the only one you should blame is your father." "Blame my father?" Chen Lu repeated stupidly, not understanding. "That's right. Your father uprooted the Long family that year. Pity he didn't realize that not all from the Long family were annihilated." Liu Mu recounted coldly. "Steward Liu, what's the use of telling this to her? The young lord is awaiting our report." The bandit-dressed man behind Liu Mu stepped forward and said. Liu Mu nodded in agreement and signaled with his hands. The surrounding bandits stepped up and captured Chen Lai. "What do you want to do? Where are you taking me?" Chen Lai was terrified, and her voice shook as she shouted fearfully, "Taking you where?" Liu Mu scoffed, "Don't worry, the time for you to die hasn't come. Young lord already said that letting you die so easily can't satisfy the hatred in his heart. Young lord ordered us to bring you back for him to enjoy a month or so, and only when he's tired and bored of you then we'll send you on your way. After that we'll generously deliver your body back to Chen Manor so that your father can appreciate the scenery." Chen Lai's eyes shot fire as she glared hatefully at Liu Mu. "Liu Mu, my father was good to you. You're a traitor, biting the hand that fed you." Chen Lai spat saliva right onto Liu Mu's face. Liu Mu wiped the saliva off his face with his fingers and his tongue licked one of his fingers. A burning light shone as his eyes roamed over Chen Lai's curvaceous body, and leered sinisterly, "Didn't expect even your saliva is so fragrant. It wasn't for young lord's prior instruction. I would service you right now." Chen Lai was so furious that her bosom was heaving exaggeratedly. "Take her away." Liu Mu shouted. "No need to handle these corpses. Just leave it here and let those wild beasts take care of them." "Yes, Steward Liu." Liu Mu and the group of bandits took the kidnapped Chen Lai and left the scene, taking some off-roads through the forest instead of the main pathway. Half a day later, they arrived at a mountain path in the wilderness. But when the group of bandits wanted to continue on, Liu Mu suddenly halted his steps. Horrified, he stared straight ahead at the two silhouettes traveling in his direction. These two people turned out to be Huang Xiaolong and Fei Hu, who left their party 2 days ago. He actually ran into them again. At this point, Chen Lai also noticed Huang Xiaolong and Fei Hu up ahead, and joy lit up her small face. Her dull, desperate heart saw a ray of hope. However, at the moment, her mouth was sealed shut, unable to call out, constrained to making only ooh-oh-ooh-oh whining sounds to attract their attention. Some distance away, Huang Xiaolong and Fei Hu, who were going about their way, noticed Chen Lai, Liu Mu, and the group of bandits, and they too were surprised. Neither of them thought they would meet again so soon after separating from Chen Lai's party. Huang Xiaolong and Fei Hu exchanged a glance and nudged their horses forward. "Steward Liu, what's the matter?" the bandit behind Liu Mu asked after seeing him stop suddenly with a frightened expression. Feeling puzzled, he went up and inquired about the matter. Liu Mu quivered slightly as he pointed to the front at Huang Xiaolong and Fei Hu that were approaching them. It's them." "Them?" That bandit was confused. He already saw the two people approaching them, but he can't see what's so special about them. Huang Xiaolong and Fei Hu reined their horses and came to a stop in front of Liu Mu. Huang Xiaolong's eyes swept through the group of bandits and paused for a second on Chen Lai before he turned to Liu Mu. "I say, isn't this Steward Liu? I didn't think there would be such a coincidence that we would run into each other again. It really does seem like fate." Liu Mu did not say anything, and the expression on his face grew increasingly ugly. "And isn't this Miss Chen Lai?" Huang Xiaolong laughed. Where are you heading to that you need to tie up Miss Chen Lu's hands and seal her mouth?" Liu Mu maintained his silence, but the male bandit behind him was angered. "Kid, this has nothing to do with you. If you know what's good for you, you better scram far away this moment. Otherwise, I'll cut you into 2 pieces. However, just as his voice ended, a sharp light ray from a sword flashed by, and that bandit's eyes protruded in shock as the light in his eyes dissipated. In less than a second, his body tumbled stiffly to the forest floor with blood spurting out from his throat like a fountain, dyeing the soil red. The rest of the bandits were startled, and then, all of them swiftly drew out their swords as they burned with fury, looking at both Huang Xiaolong and Fei Hu. "Stop your actions!" Liu Mu barked at the group of black-clothed bandits. He understood very well if Huang Xiaolong and Fei Hu wanted to deal with them, it would be just a matter of seconds. The bandits that were preparing to rush towards Huang Xiaolong and Fei Hu stopped after hearing Liu Mu's order. Liu Mu looked at Huang Xiaolong as he squeezed out an amiable smile. "Young Master Huang, Senior Fei Hu, this matter has nothing to do with you. If you can walk away, my young lord would repay the kindness in the future." "Young lord?" Huang Xiaolong put on a haughty expression on his face. "Didn't you claim the two of us to be the masterminds behind the incident? Didn't you say that you have followed your miss for more than a decade, and that you've always been loyal and devoted? Didn't you also accuse us of slandering you?" Liu Mu didn't know how best to answer the flurry of questions from Huang Xiaolong where, as the sealed-mouthed Chen Lai felt ashamed. At that time she had proudly declared that she trusted Liu Mu, yet she didn't expect in the blink of an eye she was captured by Liu Mu and these people. "What exactly do you want?" Moments later, Liu Mu asked with a sullen expression. Saying this, he took out a bag of money and lobbed it forward. "There is a gold card with 100,000 gold coins inside, exchangeable at any bank in the Ui Kingdom." Huang Xiaolong caught the bag of money, yet the expression on his face remained aloof. 100,000 gold coins? Seeing this, Chen Lai became anxious and she shook her head vigorously, making muffled sounds hoping to dissuade Huang Xiaolong. 100,000 gold coins can only send off beggars. Huang Xiaolong stared directly at Liu Mu. Liu Mu's brows scrunched together, gritted his teeth, and threw out another money bag. Inside this bag is another card with 100,000 gold coins. Huang Xiaolong shook his head. "There is roughly 100 of you here. Are your lives so worthless? How about this? I'm also not a greedy person. One life, 100,000 gold coins. One life, 100,000 gold coins, that amounts to over 10 million. Over 10 million gold coins." When Liu Mu understood the underlying meaning of Huang Xiaolong's words, and his anger erupted, "You're king kidding me?" He finally realized Huang Xiaolong was playing with them from the beginning. "So what if I'm playing with you?" Huang Xiaolong shrugged his shoulders, nonchalantly. His eyes glanced at Fei Hu, and without the need for words, Fei Hu understood Huang Xiaolong's meaning. Fei Hu's silhouette flashed and vanished from the horseback, appearing right in front of Liu Mu. Liu Mu's eyes widened in fear, watching Fei Hu's palm slide past his throat, sharper than a weapon. Shocked, Liu Mu stood in the same spot while Fei Hu did not move an inch as he waved his hands, and Liu Mu and the rest of the bandits fell down by the dozens as miserable screams reverberated in the forest. Not needing a long time, the cries and screams stopped, leaving only Chen Lai breathing as she stood petrified in the same spot. After he finished dealing with Liu Mu and the group of bandits, Fei Hu came beside Chen Lai. With a wave of his long sword, Chen Lai shut her eyes tightly in fear. Fei Hu's sword actually slashed the rope that bound her hands. When all is done, Fei Hu returned to Huang Xiaolong's side. "Let's go," Huang Xiaolong spoke, ignoring the other side, and he and Fei Hu galloped away on their horses. Seconds passed by, and Chen Lai braced herself and opened her eyes, watching Huang Xiaolong and Fei Hu's backs disappearing from view. Looking at the outcome around here, she suddenly broke out in tears. Chapter 106. I'm his old man. A long time after Huang Xiaolong and Fei Hu had left, a gust of cold wind blew, sobering Chen Lai up to her current situation. She left the place in a haste, and when she was running, she passed Liu Mu's corpse and tripped over it, falling face down, tears mixed with soil and sand, dirtying her face and hands. Enduring not cry out as she struggled to get up, she quickly ran off in the same direction Huang Xiaolong and Fei Hu left earlier, towards the Ui royal city. 2 days later, Huang Xiaolong and Fei Hu stood before the huge city gates, and Fei Hu nearly couldn't contain the excitement in his heart. He's back, finally. The Ui royal city gates were same as before, no big changes at all. "Let's go in." A short moment later, Huang Xiaolong spoke. Repressing the excitement in his heart, Fei Hu nodded yes enthusiastically. 2 figures entered through the city gates. Passing through the city gates, the 2 of them strolled along the bustling streets in a relaxed manner, going along with the flow of people. Drinking in the lively atmosphere, Fei Hu was a little emotional. 7 years passed, and the Ui royal city was just as he remembered it, but many of the shops had changed businesses, and some buildings were renovated, and these newer additions were somewhat strange to him. Huang Xiaolong nodded secretly as he observed the prosperous and bustling streets of the Ui royal city. Compared to the Luotong Kingdom's royal city, the condition here was way better. Moreover, judging from the buildings and infrastructure of the city, they were a level higher than the Luotong royal city. There were 2 more days until Fei Hu's eldest grandson's wedding day. Since they already arrived in the royal city, neither of them was in a rush to reach the Fei Manor, taking their own sweet time strolling in the streets. A couple of hours later, it was already noon. As they passed by a large restaurant, Fei Hu stopped and happily said to Huang Xiaolong, "Young lord, this absolutely luscious dishes floor is one of the 3 best restaurants here. Their specialty, fiery wine, is tastier than the delicious restaurant's snow moon wine. Should we go in and have a drink?" Huang Xiaolong nodded. "Fiery wine? Very well, let's go in and taste some." Thus, without further ado, Huang Xiaolong and Fei Hu walked into the absolutely luscious dishes floor. Once he entered, Huang Xiaolong saw the lower floor consisted of over 100 tables and all of them were seated with customers, leaving none open or empty. At this time, a person with the owner's attire and appearance was hurrying towards Fei Hu, asking eagerly, "You are Marquis Fei Hu?" Fei Hu nodded. "Boss Chen, these past few years that I didn't come, your business is flourishing nicely, ah." This middle-aged man happens to be the restaurant's boss. In the past, Fei Hu patronized the restaurant often for their dishes and fiery wine. The two of them can be considered old friends. "Hee Marquis Fei Hu jests. A few years that we haven't seen each other, yet your excellency looks younger than before." The restaurant boss laughed, "Unlike me getting older every day." As he said this, his hand gestured courteously. "Marquis Fei Hu, this way please to the second floor. I'll tell the small ones to arrange your table and dishes." Fei Hu nodded his head and went up to the first floor with Huang Xiaolong. The second floor was just as boisterous as the lower floor, and it seemed to have no empty tables available, but the boss had swiftly arranged it for them. Not long after both of them had sat down, the dishes were sent up. There were also 2 jugs of wine. 2 big jugs of wine served with custom-made fiery red cups resembling moving lava. The fragrant wine teased Huang Xiaolong's nose as he poured some out into a cup and tilted the entire content into his mouth. A sweet dry taste flooded his senses as the wine rushed down his throat, turning into a strong, burning sensation that spread out in an instant as if every blood cell in the body was about to combust, and a feeling of contentment and elation rose in the drinker's heart. "Good wine," Huang Xiaolong praised aloud. Cups raises endlessly between Huang Xiaolong and Fei Hu. As Huang Xiaolong and Fei Hu enjoyed themselves, discussions from tables nearby passed into their ears. "Did you hear the king personally conferred Yang the title of Marquis? Tusk that Yang is only 21 years old and he's already a Marquis. This is a first for our UI kingdom. In my opinion, in another few years that Yang will probably be conferred the title of a duke. This is because that Yang is our kingdom's #1 genius, a monstrous genius. 1 year ago he was already a peak late 9th order, and with his cultivation speed I say he can break through to the 10th order within this year. A 21-year-old 10th order, what a monster. In another few years, Yang will be representing the UI kingdom to participate in the Imperial City battle, and with his talent, a top 10 spot is almost guaranteed." Noises of discussion filled the second floor, and in the dozen or so tables, practically every table was talking about something related to that Yang. "Oh, Yang." Hearing bits and pieces of these discussions, Huang Xiaolong became curious. "I never would have imagined Yang, that kid is also a Marquis now." At this moment, Fei Hu sighed. That year when I left, that Yang had just broken through to the 8th order. Huang Xiaolong looked at Fei Hu. Fei Hu explained to Huang Xiaolong, "Young lord, this Yang's martial spirit is a top grade 12 martial spirit, the roaring sky god lion, and he is our UI kingdom's most talented genius ever, currently attending classes in UI Academy. Perhaps later on, he will participate in the Imperial City battle in Duanran Empire together with you, young lord." Top grade 12 martial spirit, roaring sky god lion, Huang Xiaolong nodded. Except for Jiang Tang, his senior brother Chen Tangqi, and the Duanran Empire's emperor, this Yang was the 4th person he had come to know to possess a superb talent martial spirit. But Jiang Tang's martial spirit was a top grade 11 spirit, the scared bright tiger, whereas this Yang's grade 12 spirit threw Jiang Tang off by a long road. Huang Xiaolong and Fei Hu kept drinking while eavesdropping on the conversations around them. A short while later, they paid the bill and left. When Fei Hu was paying, the boss came out and proceeded to discount the amount by half before sending off Huang Xiaolong and Fei Hu in person. Leaving the restaurant, both of them headed straight to the Fei Manor. Roughly an hour later, they came to the main street leading to Fei Manor. Although there was still 2 days before Fei Ming's wedding day, the main door of the manor was already crowded with people in a merry mood, and an endless stream of horses and carriages bearing gifts. Obviously, these are people from noble families paying congratulatory visits due to the occasion. Standing in the street before the sign plate of Fei Manor, bubbling emotions filled Fei Hu's heart, and when he stepped into the Fei Manor with Huang Xiaolong, his excitement nearly spilled over. However, just as they were about to step across the doorway, the 2 guards at the sides of the door suddenly raised their hands, blocking their path. "Where are you going here? What matters do you have with the Fei Manor?" Fei Hu blanked for a moment before asking, "You two don't recognize me?" The 2 guards scrutinized Fei Hu from head to toe, and one of them laughed. "I say, old man, who do you think you are? Why must we recognize you?" Fei Hu was dazed by the answer, and a deep frown appeared on his forehead. Looks like these 2 guards were hired in the years after he had left, so neither of them recognized him. He turned around, a little embarrassed as he looked at Huang Xiaolong. He didn't expect for something so awkward such as this to happen even before he returned to Fei Manor. Huang Xiaolong gave him a faint smile, and did not say anything. Only Fei Hu can handle this matter. At this point, Fei Hu told the 2 guards, "Call your patriarch out." The same guard smiled wider, saying, "Call our patriarch out?" "Old man, I think you don't realize the situation. You think our patriarch is someone you can see just cause you say so?" "I'm his old man." Fei Hu's temper came out, but in the ears of the two guards, it sounded as if Fei Hu was cursing their family's patriarch, and that made their expression turn cold. "Old man, be frank and tell us, did you come here to make trouble? Your blind dog eyes, how dare you make havoc here? Look around and see where this is." Chapter 107. Really is the patriarch's old man. Make trouble? Your blinded dog eyes? Look around and see where this is. Fei Hu was floored being treated this way in his own home. Anger and frustration bubbled inside him, whereas Wang Xiaolong behind him was shaking his head while smiling bitterly. "Impetuous!" Fei Hu bellowed. His right hand suddenly waved forward, bringing a violent gale that whirled at the two guards away, throwing them heavily onto the ground. The two guards screamed at the top of their lungs, raising a commotion in the mansion's surroundings. Passers-by and nobles who came to send congratulatory gifts nearly jumped out of their skin, and they instantly retreated. At this time, loud footsteps were heard rushing to their direction from the inner yards of the mansion, and a group of mansion guards appeared, around 20 of them. Leading the group of guards was a thick-bearded, middle-aged man. A thick black beard covered 3/4 of his face, making him look particularly fierce and vicious. Judging from his attire and demeanor, this middle-aged man must be the guard's captain. "What is happening?" The moment this thick-bearded man rushed to the scene, he shouted out the question as he came beside the two miserable guards. Struggling to get up, the two guards said to the middle-aged man, "Captain Lin, it was these two people. They came to make trouble at our Fei mansion. He berated our patriarch and attacked us first." A finger pointed towards Wang Xiaolong and Fei Hu. That thick black bearded spun in Wang Xiaolong and Fei Hu's direction, and his expression sank. His mouth opened and a cold voice sounded, "Did you two eat a bear's heart or leopard's gallbladder? You dare come and make trouble in our Fei mansion? Do you know what kind of place is the Fei mansion?" Wang Xiaolong rendered slightly helpless with the situation. It seems this black-beard middle-aged is also someone who doesn't recognize Fei Hu. Fei Hu was away for 7 years, so how much did the guards change in during this period of time? Fei Hu also was speechless. "Tell Fei Rong to come out," Fei Hu stated bluntly with a nerve twitching on his forehead. The thick black, bearded man was angered hearing Fei Hu refer to their patriarch by name, as this was naked disrespect towards their patriarch, and his face darkened considerably. "Go! Capture these two people, let the patriarch to judge their crime." "Yes, Captain Lin." The Fei Mansion's guards acknowledged loudly in unison, and all of the guards rushed towards Wang Xiaolong and Fei Hu. However, just when the group of guards wanted to make their moves, Fei Hu's palms slapped the void before him gently. Seal of thunderstorm. Tens, no hundreds of hand prints flew out like rain during a violent thunderstorm right onto the bodies of the Fei Mansion's guards, sending them flying off in all directions. Over 20 of Fei Mansion's guards lay groaning on the ground. Captain Lin's face changed for the worse. Fei Hu's strength had far exceeded his estimation, as he himself was a 9th order, and he guessed Fei Hu to be, at the very least, a 10th order. While this was happening at the front, Fei Rong was sitting in the main hall chatting with several other families' patriarchs. "Patriarch Fei, congrats, your dearest son and Miss Tao are getting married. This is a great event in the royal city. Yes, Miss Tao is the pearl of Duke Tao's palm, and the famous #1 beauty in our UI royal city. Fei Ming, this kid really knows how to win the beauty's heart. Even this Uncle Chen is feeling envious of him." Fei Rong chuckled, and just when he was about to speak, suddenly, loud shouting came from outside, and this realization surprised everyone sitting in the main hall. Is there still someone who dared to come and make trouble in the Fei mansion? At this point, a loud miserable scream resounded in the air. Fei Rong could tell it was Captain Lin Chenggu's voice, and his brows creased. Lin Chenggu was a 9th order expert. Who could the person that injured him be? A 10th order. Everyone. Fei Rong stood up. "Please excuse me for a moment." The several patriarchs in the main hall exchanged looks among themselves, and one by one stood up with Fei Rong. One of them said, "We will go out together with Brother Fei and see what's happening. Let's take a look who has such big guts to come and create trouble here in the Fei mansion." Fei Rong smiled. "Okay, I thank everyone here." Fei Rong stepped out of the main hall with the patriarchs, heading towards the Fei mansion's main door. Moments later, Fei Rong and the group behind him arrived on the scene. When Fei Rong reached the entrance area, his steps suddenly stopped and his body trembled. Noticing the silhouette near the entrance, Fei Rong was taken over by happiness and surprise. The guard's captain, Lin Chenggu, that was slammed away by Fei Hu earlier, saw Fei Rong came out, and joy bloomed over this thick, bearded face as he scrambled to get up and reach Fei Rong's side. "Patriarch, it is these two people. They came to cause trouble in Fei mansion." However, Fei Rong didn't look like he heard a word Lin Chenggu said, pushing him away to the side. Fei Rong walked and reached the middle-aged man who hit all the mansion's guards in a few brisk steps. Fei Rong shocked everyone present when he suddenly knelt down. "Father, you have returned. Father, you have returned." Lin Chenggu's jaw dropped. The several patriarchs that came with Fei Rong were stunned. The passers-by and noble families that came to send congratulatory gifts were shocked, and the initial 2 guards that blocked Fei Hu's path stiffened on the spot. "Father?" The 2 guards turned deadly pale in the blink of an eye. That means this middle-aged man was really Patriarch's old man, not someone here to make trouble? Thinking of this, even their lower part shrunk in fear. Fei Hu turned around, saw his son, his solemn face relaxed. "Stand up." "Yes, father." Fei Rong answered respectfully, standing up. Fei Rong was full of smiles. "Father, you finally came back." Seeing his father back, Fei Rong was truly delighted from the bottom of his heart. The day after tomorrow is his son's wedding day, and father rushed back in time to join in on the ceremony. This was the greatest gift of all. Fei Hu grinned, and then his expression suddenly became solemn as he said to Fei Rong, "This is young lord, quickly come and greet him." "Young lord?" Fei Rong was greatly surprised as he inspected Huang Xiaolong visually. He looked at his father with a puzzled face. Why would father recognize a 15, 16-year-old boy as young lord? "What are you dallying for?" Seeing his son rooted there with hesitation, Fei Hu's voice grew solemn and he snapped. Detecting the vast difference in his father's expression, Fei Rong's heart nearly jumped out from his throat. Evidently his father wasn't playing a joke on him. "Fei Rong greets the young lord." Fei Rong no longer dared to be slow. Huang Xiaolong reached out and helped Fei Rong up. "Patriarch Fei, no need to stand on ceremony, please stand." This turn of event greatly baffled the Fei Mansion guards and the nobles around. Fei Mansion's legendary old man was finally back, but he recognized a young man as young lord. What was this young man's identity? At this point, the patriarchs of other families behind Fei Rong hurried to pay their respects to Fei Hu. "Greeting, Senior Fei Hu." Fei Hu nodded. "Father, let's return inside the yard." Fei Rong asked Fei Hu. "Okay." Fei Hu agreed, and to Huang Xiaolong, Fei Hu made a pleased gesture and invited Huang Xiaolong into the mansion. "Young lord, please." Huang Xiaolong can do nothing with Fei Hu's gesture and became the first to walk in, and he was followed by Fei Hu, Fei Rong, and the patriarchs of other families. When all had left, the guards and Lin Chengdu were still standing in the same spot in a daze. In the Fei Mansion's main hall, Fei Hu requested Huang Xiaolong to sit on the main seat whereas he sat on his side. Fei Rong and the others can only sit in the normal seats in the hall. Although Fei Rong has many questions and doubts about Huang Xiaolong, he didn't dare to ask about it in the open. "Where's Fei Ming, that brat?" Fei Hu asked after taking a seat. Fei Rong replied respectfully, "Father, Fei Ming went out with Miss Tao. I will send someone to inform him of your return and tell him to come back." Fei Hu nodded his head in consent. However, at this time, a Fei Mansion guard ran in abruptly in panic, hollering, "Patriarch, it's bad. Young Master Fei Ming was beaten until he was injured." "What?" Everyone in the main hall's expressions looked ugly. "What happened exactly? Who did it?" Fei Rong's fury erupted. That person simply does not put the Fei Mansion in his eyes. Chapter content. Chapter 108. What do you dare to do something to me? That guard hesitated a moment before reporting truthfully. He was been beaten by Yang Jianfei. Yang Jianfei. Those in the main hall were shocked, and the angry expression on Fei Rong's face diminished a level. Huang Xiaolong noticed the unfavorable expressions in the main hall, and could not help but ask, "Who is this Yang Jianfei?" Fei Hu replied respectfully, "Yang Jianfei is that Yang's younger brother." "Yang Nin?" This relation was out of Huang Xiaolong's expectations. That number 1 monstrous genius of the Ui kingdom, Yang Nin? On the way here, the name he heard the most number of times was this Yang Nin. He did not expect that Yang Jianfei would be Yang's younger brother. "Where's your young master now?" Huang Xiaolong turned to ask the Fei Mansion guard. Fei Hu, Fei Rong, and the rest also turned to look at the guard. The guard quickly replied, "At the Thousand Virtues Street." "Thousand Virtues Street?" Huang Xiaolong shifted his gaze onto Fei Hu. "How far is this Thousand Virtues Street from Fei Mansion?" "It is just 3 streets away, not far." Fei Hu promptly answered. "Let us hurry over and see." Huang Xiaolong stood up. Subsequently, under Fei Hu, Fei Rong, and the patriarchs laid, Huang Xiaolong and the group showed up at Thousand Virtues Street a short while later. What welcomed them was the view of a group of people encircling another group in the middle. The encircling group was laughing, mocking and pointing, having a merry time judging from the expressions on their faces. When Huang Xiaolong's group neared the center, an arrogant loud voice sounded, "Your mother, with this ugly face of yours, you think you're worthy of Tao Ji. Don't assume your Fei Mansion is almighty. In my eyes, Fei Mansion is nothing at all. Let me tell you, Fei Ming, today this father beat you up, so what? What does your Fei Mansion dare to do? That dad of yours is also nothing but a toothless tiger." The encircling crowd broke out in raucous laughter. Obviously, it came from that Yang Jianfei's servants and guards he brought with him. "Yang Jianfei, I'll fight you to death." A furious roar cuts through the noises, and seconds later, a painful scream ensued. Fei Rong's face paled hearing that voice. Anger and wrath erupted inside his heart. The Fei Mansion guards sprinted into the encirclement, breaking it and scattering the crowd away. Huang Xiaolong and the rest saw a 25 or 26-year Old young man lying on the street with blood stains on his face while a beautiful young girl in her early 20s tried to lift the young man up with a worried face. At the same time, her face contained fury glaring at another young man dressed in golden brocade robe opposite them, not far away. This beautiful young woman should be Taoji, and that young man in golden brocade robe, Yang Jianfei. Fei Ming, how bad is it? Taoji propped Fei Ming up and anxiously asked. Fei Ming only shook his head. At this time, the Fei Mansion guards had already cut a path through the crowd and Fei Rong was seen rushing up front. Dad! Fei Ming called out seeing Fei Rong, but as his voice landed, his eyes caught sight of another silhouette behind Fei Rong. Surprised, his voice trembled when he cried out, Grandfather! Grandfather, you're back! Ignoring his injuries, Fei Ming hastened precariously towards Fei Hu. Fei Hu nodded and flashed an affectionate smile as he quickly took over holding up his grandson up and checking the extent of his injuries. Fei Hu let out a breath of relief. His grandson's injuries weren't as bad as it looks. It seems that Yang Jianfei still had a sense of proportion. Yang Jianfei was greatly shocked within when he saw Fei Hu, an old man that had disappeared for so many years actually came back. He knew Fei Hu was a peak late, 10th order. Hey, Fei Mansion guard's action is quite efficient, even the patriarch came. Yang Jianfei's poisonous tongue wagged. Don't worry, that Fei Ming's life is in no danger, but he might not be so lucky next time. He looked at Fei Ming as he spoke these words. When you see me in the future, hide far away, otherwise, I will beat you up every time I see you. We're leaving. Yang Jianfei motioned with a hand wave, signaling the servant and guards behind him. Stop. Just when Yang Jianfei was about to leave with his servants and guards, a loud snarl resounded. Yang Jianfei's leg paused inches above the ground. His head looked back and saw the one who spoke was Fei Hu. Fei Hu slowly stepped towards the young man. If he allowed this young man to pat his ass and leave just like that, then the Fei Mansion wouldn't face any face to show in Ui Royal City anymore. Yang Jianfei calmly looked on as Fei Hu approached him slowly. You are Fei Hu. You want to avenge your grandson? Saying this, his eyes swept through the numbers of Fei Mansion guards. You want to bully us having fewer people? Fei Hu opened his mouth about to answer. Suddenly, Wang Xiaolong appeared next to him. As long as you can take one palm from me, we'll allow you to leave. Yang Jianfei glared fiercely at Wang Xiaolong, but all of a sudden, a smile emerged on his face. Kid, what did you say? Take one palm from you? Repeat it again. This father didn't understand clearly. The servants and guards behind Yang Jianfei broke out in laughter, whereas Wang Xiaolong remained indifferent. Kid, where did a kid that hasn't weaned milk like you run out from? Can you even make decisions? Yang Jianfei said after he managed to stop laughing. He is my young lord. His meaning is my meaning. At this time Fei Hu interjected. Young lord? Yang Jianfei was dumbstruck looking at Wang Xiaolong when he heard Fei Hu's words, and he was greatly surprised. Fei Hu actually referred to this teenage boy as young lord. The servants and guards behind Yang Jianfei were also observing Wang Xiaolong with shock in their eyes. Getting over his shock, Yang Jianfei coldly said, Since it is like this, I also want to see how you can defeat me with just one palm. A cruel light glittered across Yang Jianfei's pupils. Although Fei Hu referred to Wang Xiaolong as young lord, which greatly shook his heart, he did not take Wang Xiaolong seriously. Or it was more accurate to say, he never put a 16-year-old kid in his eyes, much less defeat him with just one palm. At this point, the crowd sensibly retreated back. Yang Jianfei and Wang Xiaolong stood in the middle with waves of energies fluctuating in the air. The crowd's focus was entirely on the two figures in the middle, especially Fei Rong. His eyes followed Wang Xiaolong tightly as he wanted to know Wang Xiaolong's strength. What does this young man have that made father acknowledged him as lord? That he is. Fei Ming asked Fei Rong, pointing at Wang Xiaolong. Just now his grandfather actually acknowledged in public that young man is his young lord, and the shock and surprise he felt was much stronger compared to Fei Rong. Are you ready? Wang Xiaolong asked in a nonchalant manner as he looked at the opposite side. Million stars, holy boxing. Yang Jianfei suddenly dashed out, making a sneak attack, angle his fist punch towards Wang Xiaolong's chest. The attack arrived almost instantly in front of Wang Xiaolong, and countless starlight shone like pillars as a discernible, holy aura spread out from the center. Everyone present was startled, for none of them imagined Yang Jianfei would launch a sneak attack, including Fei Rong. Careful! Fei Ming blurted out in anxiousness that Yang Jianfei is a peak late 7th order. When everyone thought Yang Jianfei's attack would hit the mark, Wang Xiaolong made his move. He raised one of his hands and slammed out an attack against the fist. Boom! A loud explosion reverberated in the air. Yang Jianfei wailed tragically, flying out and crashing heavily onto the streets, causing the entire street to shake. One palm. Not one person dared to utter gasps of surprise loudly. Fei Rong was stupefied, whereas Fei Ming, who shouted for Wang Xiaolong to be careful, was transfixed on the spot with his mouth the shape of an O. The servants and guards that came with Yang Jianfei were so scared they forgot to help Yang Jianfei up from the ground. Wang Xiaolong slowly walked towards Yang Jianfei. The latter had fear written all over his face. His butt scraped the street surface in horror. You, what do you want to do? What do I want to do? Huang Xiaolong stopped in front of him. Chapter 109. Yang is here. Huang Xiaolong suddenly raised his foot and kicked out, sending Yang Jianfei flying off and crashing into two pillars on the street belonging to a shop. The door frame was smashed into rubble with loose debris ricocheting in all directions. The crowd exclaimed in a shocked uproar. Second young master! The Yang Mansion's guards only reacted at this moment, hurrying forward to help Yang Jianfei to a stand. Several of the guards chose to deal with Huang Xiaolong instead and sprinted towards him while drawing out knives and swords. But before these guards could get close enough to Huang Xiaolong, all of them were slapped away with one palm from Fei Hu. When the guards were slammed away by Fei Hu, a silhouette suddenly came piercing through the air, bellowing, "Who dares to touch my younger brother?" This voice reverberated in the air like rumbling thunder, agitating the eardrums of everyone in the streets. Huang Xiaolong turned around and his eyes squinted. At this time, a figure flashed, and a young man in yellow robe appeared before everyone as his feet landed gently on the street floor. The young man's face bore some similarities with Yang Jianfei, but he stood upright like a sword with an innate, arrogant bearing that awed people. "It's Yang An, eldest young master." Seeing the newly arrived person's face clearly, surprised voices sounded from the surrounding crowd, whereas the Yang Mansion's guards were glad and happy. "Big brother." Yang Jianfei pushed the guard propping him away and hastened to Yang's side. With one hand, he pointed at Huang Xiaolong as he shouted, "It was him. He attacked me and injured me." Yang's gaze fell on Huang Xiaolong, and the temperature in his eyes dropped sharply. "This is the first time someone dared to injure my younger brother." Huang Xiaolong's indifferent expression never lost composure. "So what? Kneel down this instant, kowtow, and continue to do so until my young brother forgives you. If my younger brother is willing to forgive you, then I shall spare your life." Yang's voice was as cold as the expression on his face. "What big words!" Standing on the side, Fei Hu could not resist letting out a snicker. "Don't assume just because the king favors you that I won't dare to kill you." Yang looked at Fei Hu, his eyes sharp. "So it is Marquis Fei Hu kill me, relying on your strength as a peak late 10th order?" Yang fully released his coercive momentum, causing the airflow in the surrounding became turbulent. Although Yang was a peak late 9th order, he had stepped one foot into the 10th order line, with his superb talent, martial spirit, and its ability. In his opinion, even a peak late 10th order expert such as Fei Hu can't harm him. Then sounds of whistling winds were heard, and several new silhouettes arrived on the scene. They were the Yang Mansion's experts that had rushed over after getting the report. When these experts arrived, each of them glared fiercely at Fei Hu. "Fei Hu, be careful of the catastrophe that resulted from your mouth. One of these days, your Fei Mansion might just be annihilated." One of them, an old man in his 70s, warned threateningly. This old man was Yang Mansion's chief steward, Zhu Yi. Like Fei Hu years ago, he's a peak late 10th order. "Is it?" Fei Hu suddenly made a move. Seeing this, Zhu Yi sprinted forward instead of retreating. Crystal Ice Claw. An ice claw attack went up against Fei Hu, causing the street's temperature to decline sharply as if they fell into an ice cave. "We haven't met for a few years. I'll let you have a look at how much my strength has increased during this time." A ferocious light glinted in Zhu Yi's pupils. In the past, the two of them had fought a couple of times, yet no victory was determined. But now Zhu Yi was confident that with his current strength he could suppress Fei Hu. However, his expression suddenly changed drastically. Fei Hu's palm print came at him like a rotating cyclone, crushing his crystal ice claw in an instant to smithereens. Finally, the palm print engulfed him. Zhu Yi had yet to figure out what exactly happened, and he was already hit. His body flew off like a broken kite. All present watching was stupefied. Yang and Yang Jianfei had the same expression watching Zhu Yi being hit. Zhu Yi, the peak late 10th order, actually could not withstand one move from Fei Hu. The bustling street became deadly silent. The Yang Mansion guards that had their confidence and arrogance bolstered with Yang and Zhu Yi's arrival were muted. Fei Rong, Fei Ming, the several patriarchs that tagged along, and the Fei Mansion guards were staring wide-eyed with shock at Fei Hu. Xianchen expert. A long while later, one of Yang Mansion's guards blurted out in a trembling voice. Xianchen expert. Everyone shuddered at the thought. But Fei Rong's heart was thrilled, minus bubbles of ecstasy were bouncing happily in his heart. His dad had broken into Xianchen, stepped into the Xianchen realm. Xianchen, Fei Hu actually advanced into the Xianchen realm. In the past, the Fei Mansion was considered as one of the Ui Kingdom's prominent families. But it was barely qualified and had always been shunned by the super prominent families. The reason being that there was no Xianchen expert in Fei Mansion. But now, everything has changed. From now on, the Fei Mansion will be included in the circle of super families. Fei Rong was thrilled, and so was Fei Ming, and the Fei Mansion guards. They fell into a state of quivering excitement, frenzy, and ecstasy. Zhu Yi struggled up from the street. The expression on his face was no different with the crowd, staring at Fei Hu with apparent disbelief and shock. And mixed in there too was envy, jealousy, hate, and a strong unwillingness to accept this reality. Fei Hu was faster than him, stepping into Xiantian realm one step ahead of him. Xiantian minus one step into the heavens. Once one steps into Xiantian, their identity, position, and everything else changes. Fei Hu looked at Ji that crawled up from the ground and sneered. Annihilate my Fei Mansion. Relying on you? Ji's expression was twisted uglily. Fei Hu, although you had a break through into the Xiantian realm, don't act too arrogant. At this time Yang spoke. Don't assume you're invincible throughout in this world just because of it. Before my grandfather, you are still nothing, just the same as your previous self. Yang is grandfather. Yang Dong is also a Xiantian. Moreover, he is a Xiantian second order who had a break through into the Xiantian realm 30 years ago. After saying this, Yang looked at Wang Xiaolong. Punk, today Fei Hu covered you, so I'll let it be this time, but I want to see if Fei Hu can protect you forever at your side. Let's go. Finished his sentence. Yang wanted to leave, bringing Yang Jianfei and the rest. However, when Yang was about to leave, a silhouette suddenly flashed, and a powerful fist cuts across the airflow, coming sharply at him. Yang's heart tensed in that instant, but he reacted swiftly, meeting that attack with a fist of his own. Two fists collided, and two people staggered in the opposite directions. You! When Yang saw the attacker's face, shock was evident on his face. He cannot believe the attacker was Wang Xiaolong. Not only Yang and even Zhu, the other Yang Mansion experts, and the crowd were stunned. Their attention zoomed onto Wang Xiaolong. Fei Rong and Fei Ming received another shocking surprise. In that collision, it seemed to them Wang Xiaolong was on par with Yang and equal, neither weaker nor stronger. Yang was the UI Kingdom's #1 monstrous genius, advancing to the peak of late 9th order at this age, and he was half a step into the 10th order, whereas Wang Xiaolong was only a 15, 16-year-old boy. The #1 monstrous genius of UI Kingdom? Wang Xiaolong showed an indifferent face. In my opinion, only so. Yang's face turned red and purple due to anger, and his eyes were spitting embers of fury. Eldest young master. He moved, stepping beside Yang to say something, but was pushed away crudely by Yang, shouting, all of you scram far away from me. Whoever dares to block me, I will kill them. Instantly, dazzling light and battle cry burst out from his body, and behind him, a giant of a lion emerged. Grade 12 Martial Spirit, the Roaring Sky God Lion. The Roaring Sky God Lion Martial Spirit was an elite in the Lion Clan Martial Spirits, and it is at least 2 significant grades higher than Martial Hayashin's Dark Nether Lion. When the Roaring Sky God Lion appeared, it roared mightily skyward, and the wind became violent. Clouds rolled as lightning split the sky. Dad, what do we? Fei Rong came behind Fei Hu, asking respectfully, implying if they should make a move. Fei Hu shook his head. Without young lord's instruction, all of you don't interfere. Fei Hu signaled everyone to move back after he said that. Chapter 110. Kaiser Lion Transformation. Yang called out his Roaring Sky God Lion out. Sensing the astounded, shocked, and awed faces of the crowd, he displayed a demeanor of the upper class as he stood with both hands clasped behind him and chest puffed up. Yang looked proudly at Wang Xiaolong. Don't say I did not give you a chance. Call out your martial spirit. Wang Xiaolong shook his head slightly with an indifferent face. Even if I do not call out my martial spirit, I can defeat you just the same. What? The people watching gasped in bewilderment with voices that were loud enough to reach the sky. They felt Wang Xiaolong was too boastful. Even an early 10th order expert is not Yang's opponent after he called out the Roaring Sky God Lion Martial Spirit. Moreover, the majority of them felt Yang was unprepared in the earlier exchange because Wang Xiaolong launched a sneak attack. It was only due to this that Wang Xiaolong was able to fight to a draw with Yang. The anger in Yang broke out hearing this, and the Roaring Sky God Lion let out a thunderous roar, and a coruscating light flashed as Yang's soul transformed in the blink of an eye. After the soul transformation, Yang's physical body enlarged by a third, and his dark hair turned a brilliant golden hue. Exactly the picture of an enraged lion. The moment Yang's soul transformed, he dashed towards Wang Xiaolong, but the way he moved was wobbly and unsteady, like someone drunk. Even so, with every step he took, the dazzling light from his body would grow a circle bigger, and at the same time, the surrounding air howled fiercely. Step of the Kaiser Lion. This was Yang and martial spirit's innate ability. The step of the Kaiser Lion. Every step induced the power of space that results in an increase of gravity, and each step adds to the overlapping heavy gravity. Lastly, when colliding, the opponent would like an entire mountain crashed on top of them. When Yang took the 15th step, the powerful gravity force caused the crowd to retreat in panic, whereas the shops and building on the same street shook, cracked, and crumbled into rubble to the ground. Some distance away, Fei Rong watched with a taut face. He had just broken through the 10th order, but facing Yang's martial spirit ability, he would fall at a disadvantage. At this point, Yang reached outside a 3-meter perimeter from Wang Xiaolong. He took another step forward, but it was a kick in disguise, targeting Wang Xiaolong's chest. And standing there, Wang Xiaolong acted as if Yang's action was too fast for him to follow or to react. He simply stood there. Just when everyone thought Wang Xiaolong would fly off from Yang's gravitational impact, Wang Xiaolong, who stood still until now, suddenly struck out with precision. Collapse fist. Battle Kai surged and energies overlapped one another as they rolled forward like a tide of giant waves. Boom! A deafening explosion resounded. Yang was pushed back one step, but Wang Xiaolong staggered 6 steps back. Time seemed to freeze in that moment. Countless eyes widened in shock staring at Wang Xiaolong. He actually took the hit head-on. Yang's full-force attack was received by Wang Xiaolong without calling out his martial spirit. Although Wang Xiaolong retreated 5 steps more than Yang, and it must be emphasized that Wang Xiaolong did not call out his martial spirit, and he did not use his martial spirit's ability. There was an ugly expression on Yang's face, and he was extremely gloomy. Continuing his attack, Yang lifted up his right hand and made a movement that looked weird in everyone's eyes. His right hand slowly moved, drawing a circle in the air, and when the ends connected, his entire right arm sleeve blasted into fragments, revealing a muscular arm that is enveloped in a bright golden light. Bulging green veins ran down his arms, looked like golden earthworms, yet a despotic aura was coming from it. God King Lone Arm Punch. Yang's right arm swung out, blasting towards Wang Xiaolong. When Yang's right hand was attacking, the rest of his body did not move an inch. A gigantic fist punch pierced the air so fast that even Fei Rong, a 10th order expert, could not follow the trajectory. Wang Xiaolong watched as the big fist print came at him, and the blades of Asura were already in his hands. His sharp blades hit out. Countless rays of blade lights flew out, turning into 2 violent wind cyclones that emitted wails and cries from hell. The 2 cyclones slammed into the fist print coming from Yang and, crushing the adversary into dust. After sucking out the tempest of hell, Wang Xiaolong leaped up, and in midair, the blades of Asura thrust down at Yang and again. This time, countless blades lights turned into a thunderstorm, and the rumbling terrified Yang as he retreated in fear. However, what terrified him the most was the droplets of rain that came from the numerous blade lights actually followed him. Yang stepped back again and again. At the same time he was retreating, a long sword appeared in his hand, and he swung a cut. An immense sword imaged into the blades of rain, and in the eyes of the spectating crowd, Yang's sword attack splintered the moment it entered the ring of blades area. Yang continued to move backward, swinging his long sword out with every step he takes, and after more than a dozen sword strikes, the storm of blades finally halted. Seeing this result, Yang was about to breathe out in relief when the corner of his eye caught sight of Wang Xiaolong spinning rapidly up in midair. One after another lightning struck the ground, turning into miniature flood dragons that swallowed the area, and an aura of destruction spread through the streets. Yang watched in horror at the legion of flood dragons swarming his way. He quickly waved his sword, but the lightning flood dragons swiftly engulfed him, even using Yang's sword light as a conduit to reach him faster. Unable to dodge in time, Yang was zapped by the lightning flood dragons and his body shuddered, wobbling back out of balance. A patch of a black burn appeared on his chest where the lightning damage was most intense. In a daze, another lightning flood dragon struck Yang. Horrified, Yang tried to dodge and succeeded, but he was blindsided by 2 attacks from different angles. Struck twice, Yang couldn't help letting out a painful scream. However, the attacks came non-stop. In that brief moment, several lightning flood dragons found their mark, and Yang was blasted off, crashing into buildings on the street. Those buildings were flattened into ruins. Eldest young master, big brother. Yi and the rest of Yang Mansion's experts were jarred and wanted to hurry to Yang side when a palm print surged at them with enough energy to topple mountains and flip the seas, blocking Yi and other experts' path. Yi turned to look and found it was Fei Hu. Fei Hu you! Yi was exasperated. This is a battle between the 2 of them. No one is allowed to interfere. Fei Hu scoffed. Yi nearly broke out in anger due to anxiousness, but he understood very well if Fei Hu bends to hinder them, even with their combined strength, they still could not break Fei Hu's defense. At this time, Wang Xiaolong's feet landed on the street gently whereas Yang struggled slowly to stand up. Watching Yang, Wang Xiaolong has to admit, Yang, who possessed a top grade 12 martial spirit, indeed has a strong defense. Under the circumstances, experts possessing grade 10 martial spirits could hardly stand up again after being hit by his state of abundant lightning. Successfully standing up, Yang howled at the top of his lungs, and his eyes were a scary blood red as he glared menacingly at Wang Xiaolong. The hatred and killing intent in his eyes were so thick that the crowd behind Wang Xiaolong shivered. Yang, the UI Kingdom's #1 monstrous genius, was actually defeated without resistance by a young man that was a minimum of 5 years younger than him. Moreover, in these circumstances where the opponent did not call out their martial spirit, for Yang this was his biggest shame. The gazes of the people around felt like thorns that pierced cruelly into his flesh one by one. Die, die, die. The desire to kill took over Yang's heart. Long golden fur grew on his body that was similar to a golden lion's hair. Kaiser Lion transformation. This was his martial spirit. Roaring sky god lions. Second awakened ability after he broke through the seventh order, and it went through a second evolution. After initiating Kaiser Lion transformation, Yang's body grew larger again, nearly doubling his current size. His skin glittered in the sunlight, as if his skin was coated with a layer of golden paint. Eyes the color of a reddish gold, and an aura more terrifying than before swept out from his body. And that wraps up today's journey, fellow cultivators. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to leave a like and drop a comment sharing your favorite part of the chapter. Make sure to subscribe for more epic narrations, and hit the notification bell so you're always the first to hear the next tale. Until next time, and we'll meet again in the next world.